mention a few housekeeping rules. Number one, the fire alarm is not going to be tested today. So if you hear an activation, so that is good. So we need to take note that is good. And the fire exits are just across the door over there, and a couple of fire exits there as well. When the fire gets activated, there will be guests, hotel guests who will direct us through the fire exits. Don't panic, just walk calmly. Number three, toilets are just over there across the entrance where the registration stand is. So there's a female toilet over there, and then just across the door we have both female and male toilets for everyone who wishes to use convenience. Number four, if you came in with the car, please endeavor to register your car at the registration point. There is an electronic system on the wall, and the reason is so that you're not charged. There's an automatic charging system once you drive into the hotel. But once you put in your registration numbers, your car will not be charged. And also remember to register your name at the entrance. And for our wonderful guests who are joining us online, feel free to engage, put in comments, chats, questions. The IT guys are keeping an eye on the chat team. We'll look at the comments, and then there'll be time for feedback and answers as time goes on. So thank you so very much. With that in mind, I want us to relax and enjoy the program. At this point in time, we want to welcome the visionary and the founder and the architect behind the program. I know God is the inspiration, but God has graciously used the vessel through whom this event and the organization Time to Be has been blossoming over the years. She's impacted lives, she's impacted mine personally, and she's been touching lives and continues to do that for the past 10 years. So it's an honor to know her, and I'm sure everyone will attest to that. So please let's welcome our mommy, Reverend Abdullah Crown, as she comes over to the stage and gives us the opening remarks. So that she please continue to work as she comes. She's looking gorgeous and elegant. Welcome very much, and she's my boss.
Just because I want to tell them you are my boss. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Please, we can all have our seats. I'm so grateful and grateful to God and to everyone who has been a part of this journey. It's a very exciting time indeed. We are celebrating so many things. I mean, when you talk about 10 years, it's not 10 days. I'm not talking about 10 hours. I'm not talking about 10 seconds. It's only God that can keep a man for 10 years. So then, especially with the kind of wind that has blown within the 10 years, to be more specific, with COVID-19, and we're still here, we're still functional, we're still relevant, we're still open. No, it calls for celebration and an intentional one for that matter. So this conference this year is just to, it's our own way, our organization, we operate within a Christian context, and it's also our way of saying thank you back to the one who has backed us up. So we'll send a lot of that later when we are doing the celebration, but it's been such an awesome time for the past the experts in finance, experts in technology, experts in legal. I mean, it's just a full day and a very, very promising day. Please sit down and relax, and I want to hope, just like I do, that you'll have a lot to go back home with, to impart your community, to impart your generation, and
until everywhere becomes a safe place, not just for women and children, but for everyone who lives in the community. Thank you so much, and you're all welcome.
Thank you so much, Ma. I told you she was my boss, and she's still my boss, and you can see that. Thank you so much for welcoming us. It's been a privilege to be part of the team, and also want to extend gratitude to every volunteers who have been working behind the scene to make this day happen. And special thanks to the IT team as well, who have been working very, very well to make this event successful, especially for those watching online. With that in mind, we will go straight to the next segment of the day. Like Momi said, a lot has been talked about and um, you know presented. Yesterday was really very good. I attended and I took note talking about faith response to the issue of domestic abuse. I think it's very important that the church plays a key role in curbing the incidences of domestic abuse. So one of the first presentations that we'll be doing this morning, we'll be looking at the legal gaps, the policies and legal frameworks around domestic abuse in Scotland. And I will be making that presentation this morning. It's something that I am passionate about, but we'll go briefly through it, highlight the key legislations that are in operation in Scotland, some of the protective measures that the government has put in place. And I think it's really important because sometimes we receive questions, the organization receive questions about how do I go about seeking redress? What right do I have as a victim and survivor of domestic abuse? What are the necessary steps? Do I have to take any procedure and all those questions? So we will look at all those things. The aim of the presentation is essentially to let us know what the law says, what the law defines as domestic abuse, what right you have, and how you can approach incidences like that. I hope I will be able to get the slide working. But whilst we are doing that, I just wanted to touch base with everyone and perhaps ask in your own way or in your own word, when you're asked what domestic abuse is, what comes to your mind? What do you think can be defined as domestic abuse? What one word will you describe domestic abuse? Anyone, just feel free. What comes to mind when you hear domestic abuse? An abuse that takes place between someone that you are familiar with. Thank you so much. That's very, very, very correct. Any other one? Damage. I like that. Damage. Yes. Abuse results in damage. And this damage could be psychological, could be physical, could be is broad. So damage. Thank you so much. I wish I had a screen where I can be writing this down. Any other one, please? Damage, abuse that takes place among someone that you're familiar with. Control, control, yes. As simple as it sounds, we think control doesn't have a negative effect. One thing that God gave us is freedom. God doesn't force you to worship Him. You have the choice, but He advises you to worship Him. So when you control everyone, when you control your partner, where they go, what they eat, what they wear in a certain way that they don't have a will to express themselves, that can become very bad as well. So control. Any other words while we are trying to get the screen come up? Any other word that comes to mind? Damage, yeah? Yes, ma? Beating, yeah. I like the way that you just leveled it down, beating. And that's the one that we are very relatable to, or relatable with where I come from our background. Incidences of a husband beating the wife, and at times wife beating the husband. So at times we think that the wife can't beat the husband, but yeah, it happens the other way as well. But yeah, most often than not, you see women being beaten. Unfortunately, we've had instances where reports have come in. Wife, completely damaged, eyes damaged, some of them even physically attacked. So there are a lot of things. So damage, beating, control,
abuse in relationship. I like the way you said it. Someone that you're familiar with. Someone you're familiar with doesn't have to be in marriage. It could be in relationship. It could be someone that you've developed a relationship over the years. So such abuse, yes, abuse. Yes, thank you so much. That's it. Yeah, thank you. I said it before that the IT team are the ones who are making our lives comfortable. So, so that's the presentation we'll have today. So I want to look at the frameworks and survivor justice. Essentially, these are the things we'll be talking about. We'll look at few statistics in Scotland, and we look at some of the statistics in Aberdeen, where we stand. What are the incidences of abuse, and we look at the legislations. We look at the protective measures that have been put in place. Then we'll have a summary of other protective measures that the government has put in place. And the critical part that I want us to engage, especially for everyone watching online as well, another critical part will be the challenges we are facing in solving this issue. What are the challenges you think are prominent, and how can we go about solving these challenges? Because it's very important we address the challenges. Okay, let's see what the statistics say. This is from the Scottish government website. So between 2022 and 2023, 61,994 incidences of domestic abuse were recorded or reported by the police. 61,931 incidents of domestic abuse were recorded in Scotland. That's a staggering number. That's a lot. That's a big number. And what struck me also while I was doing the research is that they say this number dropped. It was higher the previous year. The number dropped from, it was over 61,000. The previous year was much higher. This is the number of incidents we had in 2022 and 2023. The numbers for 2023, 2024 have not been published. I'll be interested to know what the numbers are. Then out of the 61,000 incidents, 23,893 included incidences of crimes and offense. Crime or an offense, meaning not all incidents of domestic abuse are crimes. Others are just civil wrongs. But the criminal ones are more serious. For example, you assault someone, you beat your wife to the extent that their bodies are grievously harmed. So these are the incidences we have. That's 39% of the 61,000 were of a criminal nature. And then the remaining 61 did not include any crime or offense. Among the crime category, assault, common assault was the highest in Scotland. Common assault on partners was the highest. Then threatening and abusive behavior, crimes against public justice, and vandalism were the frequently recorded crimes and offenses in Scotland. 61,000. Let that just register for a while. 61,000 incidents. And you will see when we look at the next slide, you see that not all the incidents were recorded. Not many of them were reported. Not many of them were even spoken about. So that's a staggering number. So if you look at this, another statistics, incidents of domestic abuse recorded by the police per 10,000 population by local authority in the same year. The average of 114 were reported out of every 10,000 population. And if you look at the slide, Dundee has the highest incidence of reported cases. And Aberdeen, we're just, I don't know whether anyone can see where Aberdeen is. Aberdeen is 111. So Dundee, I think perhaps we might have to reach out to the Dundee city next when we're doing the conference. But that's the number. Dundee has 180. Aberdeen, where we are, has 111. And then the lowest is the Orkney Islands, 53. reported incidents, the average reported incidents per 10,000 of the population. So what does this tell you? No city is left untouched. Every city has incidents of domestic abuse. And the Scottish government is beginning to take interest in that. But one of the challenges I will mention when we're looking at the challenges is that they are reactive rather than proactive, and that's an issue to address. So that's what the statistics say. Then what does the law say? What are the key legislations, the key pieces of laws that govern domestic abuse in Scotland? What are the key pieces of legislation? There are two, essentially. There are two key laws that, if you're seeking to address domestic abuse or that define domestic abuse in Scotland. And the first one is the Domestic Abuse Scotland Act of 2018. That's the first law. This is the major law that defines domestic abuse in Scotland. And it defines it. I thank you everyone who has given definitions. Most of your definitions are covered in the law. The Domestic Abuse Scotland Act defines domestic abuse as any form of physical, verbal, sexual, psychological, or financial abuse that takes place within a relationship. Any form of physical, verbal, sexual, psychological, or financial abuse that takes place within a relationship. So note that it's not just a marriage, within a relationship. And I like the way you put it, someone you know. And it's not just beating, like our mommy said, which is right. When you beat someone, that is an abuse. In fact, it borders on the criminal part of abuse when you beat someone. When you deprive your partner of money, upkeep money, you know that you're the one that pays rent. And you're not going to pay the rent this month because I want to teach her a lesson. I want to teach him a lesson. That is an abuse. Or you say words that hurt the feelings. You say words that tear down feelings that cannot be taken back for years. That's also domestic abuse. Can we remember any of those such words? Can you, just an example? Someone say you're a goat. And it's like, how can you call your wife or your partner a goat? How? You are an idiot. Sometimes at times, the circumstances and the way you go about it. So these are words, very hurtful words. And sexually as well. Your wife says, no, I'm not in this space, so you must do it. You must do it. There's no way. You quote Bible. Bible says you should not deprive your partner. And you do it under that circumstance of agony. You do it even when she's tired, or even when he's tired. Abuse, sexual abuse, that is also under the definition. So this law came into effect in 2019. Remember, I said these laws are reactive, they are not proactive. Abuse have been in place for years. These abuses have been in place for many years, but we just had essentially a standard definition in 2019. So what happened for those years, many years? So the laws are proactive. But the good thing is the country is responding to the incidents. We have a lot to do at home in Nigeria. We have a lot to do in other countries of the world, not just in Africa, in the Western world. That number that I gave is not Nigerian incident. That's here in the UK. So Western world and non-Western world, the abuse is prevalent everywhere. So that's the law. If someone asks you what law defines domestic abuse in Scotland, is Domestic Abuse Act, Scotland Act 2018. And it says the key things to remember about this law is that domestic abuse is not restricted to physical harm. It's not restricted to verbal. It's not restricted to sexual. It's not restricted to psychological or financial. They cover all of them. So that is the key thing to remember. And thank you everyone who gave responses to that. Okay, that's the first law. What about the second law? The second law that governs domestic abuse in Scotland is this one, the Domestic Abuse Protection Scotland Act 2021. Now, the difference between this law and the previous one is that the first law that I mentioned defines the scope of domestic abuse. But as the time went on, there was need for victims to be protected more, especially if you're trying to seek support from court, if you're trying to seek redress from court. What happens that if you've reported the matter to the police and you're about to take action in court, but court procedures take time. They don't happen immediately. It could take weeks, it could take months. What happens between that period when you're still living with your partner? So that's what this law seeks to address. The law introduced two protective measures. It introduced two protective measures, and it's very important. If you're advising someone who wants to stay safe, this is the law you should remember. Introduce two measures. Number one, we call it the Domestic Abuse Protection Orders. So you can seek domestic abuse protection orders from the court, or you can call it DAPO. It's not DAPO, but it's DAPO. So DAPO. This order is the order you get from the court to restrain the abuser from further inflicting harm on the victim. This is the order you get from court. You usually file an application in court. So, domestic abuse protection order. An interesting thing is, even if you're not a lawyer, if you're not grounded in law, and you just seek to be protected, you could go to the sheriff court and say that, oh, I am a victim of domestic abuse. I don't know what to go about. I don't know how to go about the situation, and I'm seeking the court to grant me a protective order. The court has a legal aid system that can help you put in the application properly. That's number one order to remember. So you can seek that. You can tell anyone who is in this circumstance that this is one order they can get from the court. Then the number two there is what we call the Domestic Abuse Protection Notice. This is for the police. How this works is that while you are making the application in court to get a court order, you can go to the police and the police can issue what they call Domestic Abuse Protection Notice. This notice is issued from the police to the abuser, telling them they should desist from doing anything against you further. So while you're processing the court order, the police gives a notice. And once the police gives that notice, the person will become more careful. The police will be keeping the person under watch. So that's what you should do. So the first thing, in the order of chronology, I would usually take the Domestic Abuse Protection Notice, tell the police that, oh, I've been abused, or I'm in a relationship that is abusive. Can I get a Domestic Abuse Protection Notice? The police will give that notice, and then they will ask you to go to court, or they may even help you to go to court to get the protection order. So that's the things to remember. These are the things to remember. The first law defines domestic abuse. The second law provides the kind of remedies you need to stay safe while you're essentially solving the issue. I hope that makes sense. Okay, thank you. So yes, the procedure, how to go about and how to apply for these notices, it's not complicated. You just need a phone call to the police. If you can go to the police station and tell them, you give them instances of domestic abuse, and they can give you the notice. You give them the name of the abuser and the details, and they will issue the notice. And once that is done, you can seek a solicitor who can help you with applying for the protection orders. If you don't have a solicitor, and Aberdeen, the Citizens Advice Bureau can help you also provide guidance on how to apply for the protection order. But if you're in doubt at all, get in touch with charities like Time to Heal and any other charities, and they will be able to help you with the application as well. So yes, that's very important to remember. This presentation is just to make it as practical as possible so that you know what to do next time. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. Okay, apart from these laws, what other protective measures, what are the things you can get if you're a victim of domestic abuse, or if you know someone who has been abused? What are the measures, the protective measures that you can get? There are a host of them, there are a couple of them. Number one, is banning the accused from contacting the complainer through a solicitor. Once an abusive relationship has started, once an abuse has started, the first thing that can be done, or one of the measures, is to ban the abuser, and you can do that through the solicitor. Usually you contact a lawyer and they write a letter to the abuser that you've been instructed that an abuse has taken place, and then you're acting on behalf of the client, that you're therefore giving a notice for them to desist from doing that further. Otherwise, action will be taken against them. That's the first thing. That's one of the protective measures you can take. An abuse can be banned from coming around you, from coming to your premises. Then banning the accused from conducting their own defense in court. The court can also institute that. If the person is very, very bad, the court can also ban the accused from conducting their own defense in court. They will need to seek a lawyer. Allowing certain evidence about the complainer's behavior. These are some of the protective measures. Once an action is taken in court, the court will require evidence both from the accused and from the complainer. And sometimes you give evidence of things that have happened in the past that are not necessarily abusive, but are precursors to the abusive behavior. So these are some of the things that can be done. Applying the same rules for vulnerable witnesses as other serious offenses. Ensuring that the victim is not subject as other serious offenses, and also requiring the court to consider making a non-harassment order against the victim, against the convicted offender. These are some of the protective measures. The court can give a non-harassment order against the convicted offender. So these are protective measures that a victim or a survivor can get from the court. Okay. We also have other measures that can be included as well. So these are more of I call it the criminal justice protective measures that you can take. One of these is the Crown Office and Procurator Physical Service. Does anyone know what that stands for, or what the office is? The Crown Office and Procurator Physical Service. Okay, they work with the Ministry of Justice. Here, they are the ones who prosecute criminal offences in Scotland. So if the domestic abuse we're talking about involves crime, this office is the one that can prosecute that incident. So if you're looking to prosecute an abuser who has committed a crime, for example, has beaten the partner and then wounded him or her, then this is the people. You don't need to go to the sheriff's court. Just their website is there. You just type their name, put it on the website, call them, and they'll pick up the matter. And all the documents that needs to be filed, they'll file it for you. All you just need to do is provide the evidence, statement, and the dates and time. The Crown Office is the one that does that for criminal justice system. Other things like I mentioned, protective orders, that more of civil, that's a civil measure. If you want to be protected, at times you want to protect yourself and your children, you go to the civil court. The sheriff's court are the ones who provide protective orders for victims. In addition to these ones, the court over the years, especially in Scotland and in England, they've created specialized courts that are targeted just for domestic abuse. Just for those who are in the tax sector, they have taxation court tribunals that deal with tax. They have criminal tribunals that deal with crimes. They have construction tribunals that deal with construction matters. For the same applies to domestic abuse. They have specialized courts. The reason is because of the sensitive nature of domestic abuse. The victims at times don't want their matter to be open to the public. They don't want that trauma. They don't want to be re-traumatized, given the evidence again. So the court staff are trained. They are specialists who are trained in domestic abuse issues. So that is applicable. So if you wish to apply for such courts, you just indicate to the court that you need a specialized domestic abuse court, and we take the matter over there. Because they're not just dealing with the law, they're dealing with your the psychological impact on you. So it's very important. So if you're talking to Time to Heal and any other charities, you also mention the kind of court you want to go to. And then in addition to that, we're moving away from the legal part now. There are support services. We have support helplines, telephone numbers, 24 hours. You can talk to a specialist who can advise you on what to do immediately, especially if you're under that kind of situation, who can talk to you, keep you calm, can stay as long as possible with you on the phone. And Time to Heal is an example as well. I'm sure the organization is always available. We've done a lot of work in this regard. There's also an app that, by God's grace, our mom is spearheaded. There's an app where you can talk to confidentially with a counselor, and you can be directed to support. So these are all support services available. So don't keep it to yourself. You're not alone if you have any circumstances like that. So helplines, shelters, Time to Heal, and different other charities. There's another one called Safe Lives. These are protective measures you can apply to. And finally, public awareness and education, like what ICOVAW stands for. ICOVAW raises awareness on domestic abuse globally. So these are measures put in place. We're not just doing it to gather public recognition or gather public reputation for it. It's to raise awareness globally around the world that domestic abuse is, number one, a real issue happening around the world. Number two, that there are support systems in place, and there are legal frameworks to protect the victims. So you'll be shocked. So many people don't know that these things are real, that are even happening in church. So when the pastors were speaking yesterday, it really touched my heart. So it's good that we have people like that who are champions in the Christian ministry. So these are some of the protective measures. So it starts from the criminal justice system, it goes down to the civil protective orders, then you go down to the specialized court who are trained experts in that area. Then you bring it down to the less serious ones. I mean, they are serious, but less legal, the support services, people who can provide a lot of support, shelter, food, counseling, and sometimes finances as well. And finally, public awareness. And that bit is important. As we've attended the friends, you are now a champion. You go around, talk to people, raise the awareness in your own closet, in your family, in your church, in your friends, in schools. Tell people about the impact. It's not just on the victim, but also on the children. So talk to people about them, and you can create your own awareness session. It's possible. People have YouTube channels these days where they talk about different things. If God leads you and that's your ministry, you can also partner with Time to Heal in that area. So these are the summary. This is a summary of all the protective measures we have. Okay, what are the challenges? The challenges are many. I only picked up a few. Plenty of the challenges. Number one is silence. Silence both from, at times, the victim out of fear, out of reputation, what will happen to my children and all that. Silence. Silence from neighbors and friends. You are aware that someone is being beaten. You hear the sound all the time. They're banging someone, they're beating someone, and you think they're dancing in the room. No. That you could be curious and check. Silence. If you're aware that someone is going through that, please don't be silent. Culture, where we come from, also influences the way we report these issues, the way we attack these issues. We just think, oh, it's domestic affair, it's family matter, let them handle it by themselves. And one day you wake up, your neighbor doesn't have one eye anymore, and you heard it when it happened. So culture can be an inhibition. And the fear of re-abuse. The victim fears that, okay, if I report this to the police or to my neighbor, to Time to Heal, that the abuser can ignite again. Oh, so you have the mind to go and talk to someone else. The fear of re-abuse. These are real issues. We've handled one or two cases where the victim says, I'm scared of what he will do. I said, okay, you're no longer alone. People are around now. The police will be made aware. Everyone will be made aware. You won't dare it. In fact, one of them said that I'll kill you and I'll kill myself. That's how serious the matters are. So I will kill you, I'll kill myself, and let's just go. So it's a very serious matter when we talk about the fear of re-abuse. And we have stigma. We have stigma. Stigma, the shame, the reputation. Especially if you're someone who is well-to-do in the society, you have a very outwardly, good reputation around people. People see you in a particular light. To now come out to say, "Oh, I've been beaten. I'm going through this. I do a lot of shameful things at home." That stigma is also a challenge. Non-reporting. When we went through the statistics, the numbers are high, but it will shock you that so many numbers have not been reported. I asked a question between 2019 back up to 2020 or back up to 2014 or 1999, what has been going on? So what the incidences of cases, where are the records? So those ones have not been reported. So many of them have not been reported, even in Aberdeen. Plenty of them. That's a challenge. Until you know what is going on, it's difficult to address them. And then finally, on my list, concern for children. If children are involved, it's difficult for the party involved to speak out. I have an example of a family where the victim was abused seriously by the partner, to the extent that the child was there and the child had to, I want to take a knife. I want to defend my mom, because in the presence of the children. So a lot of things happen. So concern for children. So if you're looking for solution, these are the things we need to be looking into. How do we address silence? How do we address culture? How do we address the fear of re-abuse, stigma, non-reporting, and concern? Does anyone have any other challenges? I'm sure. Yes, please. Absolutely. Completely. Finance is a huge issue. 100%. Especially if the victim is dependent on the other one. You pay a rent, everything, feeding is dependent on that. Or even when the victim is a dependent visa person, you're relying on your husband or wife on a visa issue. They use that as a leverage. So finance, huge issue. Huge issue. Thank you very much, please. Thank you. Any other challenges? Yes, children's welfare. These are issues as well. Children's welfare. And like I said, when children are involved, it is a big issue. And the more children are involved, the more complicated it is to solve this issue. So, to make sure I'm keeping to time. So, those are some of the challenges. There are many. And those of us watching online, please feel free to put in your suggestions. What do you think are the challenges of domestic abuse? The things you think are very difficult are making difficult the solution of domestic abuse. Yes, please. Completely 100%. Those of you here, if you're online, the point is that some people are afraid if they will be able to find another life partner, especially after going through that. That's another challenge. Yes, please. 100% again. Mm. That's right. Meant to challenge proof in court. Meant to challenge proof in court. You're correct. Because the fear of stigma, you see, the list goes on. The list goes on. And for us to address the issue, you need to know what the problems are. If you know these problems, we are able to address them. Yes, ma'am. Again, yes. It sounds very simple, but it's true. If social services think that your family, you don't have a sound and healthy family to take care of your children, they can come and pick your children. And a mother has that inextricable bond with their children. So, I don't want my children to be taken away from me, and so let me just manage it. One day it will change. 1 year becomes 2 years. 2 years becomes 3 years. So these are things that we need to address, and I'm sure. Dying. Yeah. Mm. That's right. Instant. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. We forgot to even take microphones so that everyone can be hearing. But yeah, so a lot of contributions have come up, plenty of them behind the scene. That's right. We need to be thinking of life, because if you're gone, there won't be anyone to take care of children. So make sure that you speak up, seek help. Like I said, Time to Heal is there. We have an app, we have phone numbers and emails that you can talk to. There are different charities. If you're not even sure, call the police, call 911, and then they will pick it up from there. So please, let's take these challenges seriously. Because of time, these are some of the solutions. I decided intentionally to just keep it three and then allow us to give some feedback. Well, number one, I said we need to speak up. We need to speak up. Speak up. This is both the responsibility of the victim and the people around, those who know about the incident. Sometimes, because of what is going on, the victim might not be able to speak up, but we can be of help. Speak up if you see something and let someone know. Seek help. Let's seek help. Let's look for help. Let's look for help. Police is there. Charities are there. I've mentioned all the protective measures. Let's seek help immediately. Don't justify. Don't justify for the abuser. Don't give justification. I know you love him or her, but don't justify. Let's find a way to make sure that things are, first of all, safe for you and for the children, and you are alive. And then stay safe. If your house is not safe anymore, you need to be able to speak up and then find a breathing space. Find somewhere to stay safe. Stay safe is very important. Very, very important. So that's just a summary of the solutions I've put in place. Any ways? How do you address silence? Speaking up, that's right. So how do you address, sorry, I already went as far as saying thank you. How do you address the issue of culture? How do we address the issue of culture as a challenge? Anyone? How do you address the challenge of culture?
I have a very bad cold, so yeah. So culture is the same. I know that traditionally, I'm talking about Africans because I am African and Nigerians. We have this culture of silencing women, you know, and making excuses for men. I know you feel like I'm biased, to be biased, yeah, because I'm a woman. But this is our culture. This is our way of life. It's something that we can't change over time. But I think the solution is still speaking up, encouraging women to confide in somebody that can speak for them, even if they can't speak. Like there are so many, and then another thing is when they confide in you and want to be anonymous, do not carry their story around, because that's also what keeps people from, hold people back from speaking up. They are scared that I don't know where my story will end up. I'm scared that there won't be room for reconciliation eventually, right? So we still have to encourage them to speak up or confide in somebody if they can't come out like us. Not everybody will be as bold to speak publicly, but you have to have somebody that you can confide in. I used to call it Elizabeth. I say every woman deserves an Elizabeth. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that powerful contribution. Thank you so very much. I'm conscious of time. I am very a technical team. Please give me a nod if I've gone out of time. I think I have. Yeah, so let's but yeah, please let's keep the suggestions flowing. Everyone who has suggestions on the chat, please keep it there on the chat. Thank you so much. But these are the challenges we face, and finally the solutions that we have identified. So in conclusion, let's remember these laws I mentioned. These are the laws that protect the victims of domestic abuse in Scotland, this particular law, and then these are the orders you can get, and this law as well. Remember these two orders you can get: protective orders and the protection notice. That's very important. So with that, thank you so much everyone who has contributed to this presentation, all the comments and everything. Thank you so very much. Will we we take a minute interlude and then introduce the next speaker. Please can grab some coffee, have some things to munch on while we prepare for the next presentation. Thank you very much. I wonder whether the IT guys can help us check some of the questions inside. Yes. Apologies for everyone who is watching online. We have coffee here, but if you can make yourself a cup of coffee or grab a virtual coffee to enjoy, tea or water, whatever you enjoy over there. So it's ICOVAW 2024, the 10th anniversary of this conference, and we are so happy to have you. You're welcome. Have very special guests in the house everywhere. Doctor, everyone is here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, while we are preparing for the next presentation, we were having very good interaction around the cultural background of domestic abuse and how to address that. Culture goes back many years, many years. It goes back into the subconscious of our body. It's something that is deep rooted. It's difficult to address. I wonder whether anyone here can provide us with any sort of practical advice on how to go about cultural, deep rooted issues, how to address them. It's very it's very challenging. How do you deal with cultural implications of domestic abuse? That's Dr. Talato speaking now.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's a difficult task to undertake, but we have to have a commitment. We have to have a renewed mindset and look at culture as dynamic. There are things about our culture in the 1900s that we've left behind. You see? So if the things don't serve the community, if they don't favor the society, we can throw them away, we can adjust and do better. So I think we need to have a renewed mindset that culture is dynamic. And if we can throw things away that don't serve us, that don't allow the society to grow. So it has to do with huge commitment from the part of people experiencing it, people who don't want others to experience it because they've experienced it, and the new generation coming up. It has to be a concerted effort from everybody. Culture, when it doesn't serve us, what can we do to do away with it? And we have to be like unafraid. You can't be afraid when you're facing something that has been like a stronghold, like something that has been going on for so many years. We have to be committed.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Thank you so much for that comment. We take one more from our mommy and then we go next to the presentation.
Our culture. There's nothing we can do immediately with culture apart from education, 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 awareness, awareness, and awareness. And also for women themselves to value themselves and try to be independent. As long as women depend on men for their survival, domestic abuse will continue. And also at home, our government, they are not involved in all this kind of thing. And you go to your parents, they still bring the culture. You go to church, it's still the culture and culture and culture. And a woman stays because the children, if she leaves, they won't give her the children. And for a woman, her children is her life. She can't be happy anywhere without her children. And so there are things that both men and women need to know in order to solve this problem. I think part of it, it should be a deliberate awareness raising. Here, there is the court is behind you, the legal system they are behind you, the social system they are behind you. If you leave your husband, you, your children will not be taken away just because the children belong to the man. So in our culture, we still have a long way to go. But I think if women are independent, they won't take some of the shit that they take.
Excuse your friend. Yeah, yeah. I think we're also underplaying the relevance of social media in all of this. We are grateful for this generation. That's all I can say. And their fearlessness and ability to speak up now about this, because that's why we are seeing it more often showing. Our own generation, well, I'm a millennial, then I'm a better. Yeah, our own generation, we were thought to sweep a lot of things under the table. So we're grateful for them. That's all I can say. And I'm grateful for social media because it's also helping with the awareness, right? A lot of people are becoming, even men, they know that there are certain things, they now understand boundaries, right? So, and it's also helping the culture because our parents are watching some of, whether you like it or not, many of them are on Facebook. So they're seeing all these skits, the videos, and then it's beginning to open up a lot of discussion, even culturally. For the Nigerian government, they say African government or the Nigerian government in general, we all know our challenge. They know the truth, but because it benefits them, they are not going to do anything about it. So I think we have to continue raising the awareness. That's one of the solutions. That's one of the ways to break the barrier.
Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for the last contributions. I like the last sentence. We need to continue. We have to continue raising the awareness, notwithstanding the cultural challenges that lie therein. I think that's a very nice point to introduce the next guest speaker. And she started by speaking as well. So it's a very wonderful thing that she did that. So the next speaker that will be addressing this topic, addressing barriers in service provision, is our mommy, Mrs. Bertha D. Yakubu, MBE. She's the founder of the African Women's Group Scotland, which was established in 1994, originally from Nigeria, and has a diverse career as a science teacher. Please, let's make welcome, ladies and gentlemen, our mommy as she comes to deliver this topic, Mrs. Bertha Yakubu. Over to you, ma. Please come. Continue to clap as she comes. She gave us a prelude. She gave us a taste of what she was going to deliver when she addressed the question. You're very welcome, ma.
No, there's too much. Please sit down. I just want to take this time and thank Sister for organizing this. I've been organizing events, so I know how hard and the effort and the hours put in to get things to this level. So I really thank you for your service. And you are taking on an area that is not easy. It's not easy at all. I work with women, but I don't focus on domestic violence. But it comes up. A woman can keep you on the phone for 5 hours. You can't drop the phone because she's at the other end crying and thinking the world is coming to an end. And you can't just drop off, you know. And it's taxing and exhausting. And for you to take it on full time, well done. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm here to speak about addressing barriers in service provision. What my sister is doing is a service. And people can use it, and they may not use it. There are reasons why people can use a service or not use a service. Where is the... Okay, I hope. And sorry, I have cold, so sometimes my voice is not very clear. I've already been introduced. I don't need to repeat it. I think most of the women here know me in one way or the other. So if I press, what happens? Okay. First of all, what is a service? A service is a function of serving, doing something or offering something that people need or they want. So there are diverse services around. A plumber is a service. An engineer trying to fix your roof or whatever is a service. The NHS is a service. Schools are service. Police, the court, everything that we do, we interact. Is somebody selling us something or offering us something? And offering of that service is a process. Service provision refers to a process or ways of offering or delivering that service. What the service is, who should use it, how they should use it, and the terms and conditions. If it is a man, you can't go to maternity if you have stomach ache. They don't offer that kind of service. Okay. If it is your gas that is broken down, you won't call a doctor for it. So there are services for different things, and offering them is what is called service provision. I've given example of service provision. Oops, sorry. What do you expect from a service? It doesn't matter what it is. It should be customer or client focus. When I say customer and client, I don't mean that all clients and customers must pay to use that service. Even if it is a free service, it has to be customer and client focus. If not, you are just wasting your time. It should be reliable, safe, and efficient. If you go to a service, whatever it is not reliable. Today it is there, tomorrow it's not there, or in the morning it was there, in the afternoon it is not there, and the environment is not safe, or even when you are using it, things keep breaking down. You won't like to use that service. So it has to be reliable, safe, and efficient. And it should do what it says. It's very common with us to put up something and say, I'm offering, I want to do your hair. You go there, he's selling food or he's selling something else and not the hair. Or it just does one form of hair and not the rest of the hair. So the service must do what it says it does. If you say you're offering service for women that are abused, when they phone, you wouldn't be selling them something else. You will focus on that thing that you say you are doing. It should be friendly, polite to the users and to the workers. There are services that are good, but the workers are treated as slaves or very badly. If they are not happy, they will not treat the customer in the right way. So the workers do need to be happy with what they are doing. The ethos of a service is to help the customer, to help the user, whatever it is, whether you are selling something or you are providing advice, it should be. It's not about me. It's not about me. It is about the user of that service. So it has to be, you have to have a focus. Sometimes you go to a place, they spend their time talking about themselves rather than what they are doing. And we all know that there are some places you go and you say, I will never go back. I will never recommend that thing to somebody else. Why is it that you would say such a thing? You know, barriers are fences or obstacles that prevent the usage of that service. Either the customer service is not good, you don't want to come back, or there is what you really want is not there, especially with us minority groups. A lot of the services are not tailored to us. Like we are talking of domestic violence. if you needed a counselor that is from your cultural background, it's difficult to get. So you may not use that service. And a lot of the times I go to meeting, people will say, oh, but ethnic minority don't come. But, oh, Africans don't come. You don't want to go to a service where you have to explain a lot. I remember a woman that has problem with her husband. The husband is Scottish, and she's a Nigerian Orobo. And their case went to court. And she said, I won't go to that court. Why won't you go? Because my husband will go and speak posh English. The judge will cite her. I will speak my pidgin English. And they will just conclude that it's my fault. So I won't even go there. So you see that even if the court is there to help you, you just feel that this service is not friendly towards you. The same thing with NHS. You've gone to maternity and you are treated badly, or your GP keep on saying, I don't understand you, I don't understand you. You know, it discourages you to go back. So it becomes a barrier because you don't see yourself represented in that service. And other barriers could be physical. It's too far, or I can't drive, I can't do this and do that, so you don't go. It could be mental. We're talking of uh, abuse. What would people say? What would people think? Or even going to mental health clinic, they will think I'm already mad. So that stops you from using that service. It could be social, about what your friends and your neighbors will think about you. We have already talked about cultural factors that will make somebody not to speak up or somebody not to use a service. It could be internal, it could be external, it could be because there are some men that will threaten you even more if you try to tell somebody, so you just shut up. You know. And others may include not knowing what the service is. Because the women who came here initially, we wouldn't know that if you are beaten, you should go to the police or go and tell somebody else. So you just sit and suffer. Until someday you find a friend and you say, this thing happens to you. Do you know that you could go to this place and go to that place? And sometimes we don't use services because we don't know where they are. And sometimes too, not knowing you are right. Because where we come from, the man is automatically the head of the family. Even if he's giving you wrong advice, he's your husband. Even your friends will tell you, he's your husband. That's what men do. You go to your parents say, oh, but what can you do? You're a woman, a man can do that. You know, you don't know you're right. And even in this Aberdeen, there are people that still say that kind of thing because they don't know that they are a full, independent human being. They have a right. Only that nobody has told them that they have a right. So sometimes people don't say something because they don't know that they have a right. What have I done? Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. You see, this is disconnected somewhere. I have it, a paper form. Um, okay, I will take the paper one. My bag is under the table. I hope so. It's a backup service. As I said, you may not use a service because you don't know where it is or that it exists. So people won't use it. Knowing how to access it. Sometimes somebody will tell you that, I know if somebody beats you up or you need this, you should go to this, but I have no clue where you will start or where to go to. So not knowing what the service is, where the service is, not knowing how to access the service, the procedures. Maybe you need to call the police. Have different eyes. Yeah. Not knowing how to access the service or the procedures to access the service. Sometimes you need to report to social workers. Sometimes you need to report to police. Sometimes you need to call the police. Sometimes you need to go to the police station. So knowing when and how to use the service is very important. Sometimes you just feel that it's too cumbersome for me to do all this, but if you are in need, it is never too cumbersome. And ignorance too, especially with us. You stay here 10 years, you don't know that there's a charity like Heal, is it Time to Heal, or African Women's Group, or youth programs, because you just focus on yourself without knowing. Information is power. Information is power. You can't do anything these days without information. And so you have to look for information. Actually, information is chasing us. It's too much information. But there are people that choose to be ignorant. And if you choose to be ignorant, you pay heavily for it. Because there are things that you could do very easily, or you can get help, but you don't because you don't know. Please, we have to take information very, very seriously. Ignorance is a disease. Although somebody told me that ignorance is a bliss during the HIV time, I say no, it's not a bliss. Information is power. We have to get it. Know where. Always ask yourself, if I have this problem or this situation, who will be there for me? Who should I call? Where should I go? You have to create scenarios for yourself. It happens to other people. They didn't beg for it. They didn't ask for it. You have to think, if my husband were to beat me today, what will I do? If he was to chase me out of the house today, what will I do? If he drops dead today, what will I do? You know, you have to ask these questions, uncomfortable questions. Don't wait until things happen, then you begin to phone around, begin to go to GoFundMe and all this kind of thing. You have to think of, it happens to other people. They didn't buy it. They didn't ask for it. It can happen to any one of us. Last week, I brought somebody to talk to a group about diaspora insurance. I said, it's mostly, if I die today, my husband decide whether he will take my body home or bury me here. But I can't make that kind of decision when he dies. And a lot of them will say, take me to Nigeria, bury me in my... I say, tell them to have an insurance. Yeah, if you want to be buried home, prepare for it. Have the money for your funeral. Don't wait and leave it for the woman now running up and down, asking people to help. You just have to be blunt about it. Yeah, I have to ask my husband, where do you want to be buried? He said, Abuja. I said, okay, get ready for money for Abuja. Yeah, because if not, I will bury you here. You know, you just have to talk of these things, you know. So don't be ignorant about things. And we fear things because of insufficient information. That is why I say information is very important in anything you do. And people don't use service because of past experience too. If you use a service and you were treated badly or you were not satisfied with that service, you will not use it. The lack of capacity to take action. There are people that either their husband do things for them or their wives do things for them. On their own, they are just incapable of doing anything. And that is a bad thing too. Because if you rely too much on somebody, the day they are not there, the day they are sick, what happens? So you have to learn to do things for yourself and learn to know where things are, because it helps you to plan better. It helps you in time of difficulties. It helps you when you meet somebody else in a difficult situation. You can simply say, oh, you can do this or you can go here. Okay? Because this is how we help one another. Lack of inquisitiveness. Some people enjoy their ignorance. Yeah, you ask about this, I don't know. What do I know? Why? What is the point of putting you in school, as my mom would say? We pay so much to put you in school to be wise and not to be stupid. So please, you've got to be inquisitive. What is going on? What is going on? Don't wait for surprises. Always think of things that could happen and ask yourself, how will I cope with this? This is how I started the African Women's Group. Because I was in Dundee then. The husband was sick, was in the hospital. Her child was in his children's hospital, very sick, both of them. The husband died. He's a Malawian. And she has to go home. And the child is in the hospital. They told her, leave the child in the hospital and go and bury your husband and come back. She said, no, this is the first grandchild of the family. If I go without the child, my parents-in-law will say, I've killed my husband and I'm keeping their grandson away. And she went back home with the dead body with her child. Yeah. They buried the man. She came back, but the child didn't survive. And there was no one around. And when I came to Aberdeen, I was pregnant. I miscarried. I was in the hospital all by myself because my husband has to look after the younger one. When I left that bed, I said, no, I have to find other people like me that we know I'm in the hospital. And when my mom died, I just wanted another woman to hug me, you know. But they were referring me to bereavement counseling and all this. It wasn't what I needed. I just needed a hug because that is what we will do at home. We will cry and hug each other and share the grief. And this is how the group started. So don't isolate yourself, you know. Be inquisitive. Think about things that can go wrong and how you will cope as a woman, as a man in this country. And sometimes too, we don't use services because of lack of support system. You know, especially if you are going through trauma and all this, you need positive people around you. And if you go and do counseling, you come back to that same house that, look at this stupid woman, and where did you go, and all this, or foolish man, and all this, it doesn't help. So we need support system, and that's why you should be in some group or the other. Don't just be by yourself as if you are self-sufficient. The fear of failure may result to inaction because you think, I may not go through this course, I may not go through this. I know a sister, a dear friend that died about 5 years ago of cancer here because when she came, they identified the cancer, but she was too afraid. She was just saying, I'm trusting God, I'm trusting God. And if God brought you here where there's health service, make proper use of it. That is God's provision. I refuse to give the devil credit for good things that happen in life. It is God that gave the doctors the wisdom and everything. So you shouldn't just say, I'm trusting God, I'm trusting God. I always ask, did the children of Israel see a bridge and they say, God opened the river for us? But we see bridge, we still want miracle. Why? Is miracle, is it for our own self service or what? So when you are here, check everything, check everything. At home, people die because they have no choice. But here, don't die of fear. If you are afraid, take a friend with you. Take a friend with you. As I said, some bad or unpleasant experience will stop you. Fear, threats, shame, denial. I will be seeing sometimes you don't want to challenge a service, a bad service, because you think they will see you as a troublemaker. Actually, these days, any meeting I join, I'm there for trouble. Yeah, I'm there for trouble. I just say it the way I want to say it. Somebody have got to say it. Someone has got to say it. Just last week we were in a meeting about artifacts, and I challenged them. I said, why is it that all the pyramids and what is inside, they are built by Africans, and yet when we talk of African culture, we don't bring Egypt into it? Oh, Egypt is part of Middle East. I said, no, Egypt is in Africa. And the people that built the pyramids, they are Africans. Yeah, they are Africans. If they were Arabs, we will see pyramids in Saudi Arabia. We don't see any. They are African civilization. And then we argue a bit back and forth. I thought they would be angry with me. But one of the professors emailed me and said, can we have a talk? So I said, next week. Yeah, I just go there to make trouble. I think I've done this. What can you do about barriers? As I say, barriers are fences, obstacles that stop you moving forward or doing anything. So if you have them, what do you do? I don't know whether you can see my picture there. I'm not very good with presentation. You see that the barriers, you can go under the barriers. Somebody is going under the barrier. You can go over the barriers. You can push the barriers. How many times you've gone to shop or to a service and you were not served well because you are a woman or you are an African or this thing, and you simply walk away? Don't. Know you are right. Either don't use the service and they lost your custom, or you challenge it. You can push them aside, pull them down, break them, go around it, climb over it, go under it. There is no excuse. You can do one of this. Speak up, speak against it, talk about it, protest, sit in, tell others, show up. We talk of culture in Africa. When I was here in the 90s, the women here fought hard for all these things we are talking about. It didn't just come on its own. There were women that were in prison because they have to fight back. I remember one woman poured hot oil on her husband. She was in prison. But women said she was just trying to defend herself, you know? So African women can't sit at home and expect things to change and just trusting God. These days I ask, who is the boss, God, or we've turned God into a houseboy to do everything for us? What is the point of giving us brain if we are not going to use it? So when we see things happen here, it does not just happen. It happens because some people scream about it. And it is high time we begin to talk about it, begin to scream about it, sit in, empower others, and join hands to fight whatever we think is the barrier to our progress, to our health, to our relationship, to our mental health, to our social life. We have to speak up. Find other people with the same problem and organize. I'm so disappointed that my sister put in a lot of work into this and only very few people show up. That is not good enough. If we really want our men and children and everybody to be safe, we've got to support her, we've got to work together and talk about it, you know. We shut up, we pretend. My husband, oh, it's like that, and we women, we like doing that. Just to show another woman that it is not happening. And at home, your husband treats you like you are nothing. You know, we must stop this. We have to speak up when you see something that is not right. Read about it. Be well informed about the issues that you care about. Don't be something that, oh, I care about domestic abuse, and they start asking you, what is it? And how will you do about it? You don't have a clue. No, know very well about the issue that you care about. If a service does not include your need or issues, bring it up. When you go to a meeting, there's nothing in the meeting that pertains to you. Bring it up. If they don't give you a seat, bring your seat. If they don't give you a voice, bring your voice. Keep kicking, keep pushing, keep shouting, keep informing yourself and improving yourself. And sooner or later, somebody will listen. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. That was the presentation from Mrs. Betha D. Yakubu. Please, let's put our hands together again for that wonderful presentation. I like the last sentence. Keep kicking, keep pushing, keep shouting, keep informing, and keep improving yourself. That's wonderful. And we will do that continually. Thank you so much for that. It's been wonderful. Please, I know that we'll have comments and questions, but I will implore us just to keep them for now. You can put your questions down and comments so that we'll have time to respond to them. Because of time, we will go straight to the next presentation. We are ideally supposed to invite our daddy right now, but there's been a slight adjustment, just that so that we can meet up with other things. So apologies to our father there for being gracious again for that. Next, we'll be inviting a special guest as well, who has a special organization that is doing a lot of work in Aberdeen and across Scotland. You'll be pleased to meet her. She'll be coming to talk to us about what she does and what her organization does. Her name is Miss Ifi Anyegbu. She's the founder. She's a dedicated mother of three beautiful children, an engineering project commercial manager, and a passionate humanitarian advocate, and the founder of Foundation for Advancement of Child Education and Youth Empowerment called Face Youth. Please, let's make welcome together as we welcome Mrs. Ifi Anyegbu to talk to us in the next 10 to 15 minutes about our organization. Please continue to clap your hands, please. Continue to clap your hands. Encourage her. She contributed, participated, and gave wonderful comments. So you're welcome now.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon now. I will stand on existing protocol. I don't think I'll be talking about face youth for 15 minutes. I can't talk about it all day, but it's gonna bore you all. So it's a pleasure to be here, Ma. And thank you for the amazing work you're doing. Thank you, thank you. As Madam Betta said earlier, the work that you do is not easy at all. And it's a shame. I don't even want to glorify. We have to celebrate the people that are here. And we don't have to mention or talk about the people that are not here. I know that many people have also joined online, and we're grateful for you all. And for one reason or the other, we know that Saturday is usually a very busy period for many people, especially in Aberdeen with juggling family, and a lot of people are working. And I know that many people will catch up later as well. Thank you for having me attend this conference. I think the last one I attended and also spoke was pre-COVID, yeah? Yeah, and it was amazing. It's always a pleasure to be here. As Lawson mentioned, my name is Ifi Anyegbu, and I'm an engineering project manager and a social entrepreneur, or humanitarian advocate, as I call myself. I'm the founder and the convener for the Foundation for Advancement of Child Education and Youth Empowerment, FACE Youth. It's a grassroots-inspired charitable organization, and we are committed to just improving the lives of disadvantaged children and youth in Aberdeen and beyond. So when I say beyond, many people say abroad. Yeah, the vision we have for FACE Youth is not just for Aberdeen or the UK. Starting, if you have a vision and you just start, they say charity begins at home. So you start from known and then you expand. You don't know where it's going to take you. You don't know if it's going to shut down. You don't know, it takes a lot to even give birth to a vision. People think it's easy. What Mama Crown is doing is not easy at all. Many of us that have founded an organization will bear witness to that. Sometimes you struggle even within yourself. Like Lawson said, I'm a mom of three, and my husband lives in Nigeria. But okay, when I started Face Youth, I was not a mom of three, so we have to rewind back. Face Youth was born out of inspiration. I think I'm going to tell a little bit of my oil field African story to start with. I came to the UK in 2009 as a single girl. I was transferred to work for an oil company here from Lagos. I had never traveled before. Obviously, so sorry, I've traveled before for the same company, right? Gone for training and all that, but I've never lived abroad on my own. And all the way from Nigeria. The day I left Nigeria, it was like 34 degrees, right? Lagos. And I landed in Aberdeen. I don't know, it was November. And they said it was the worst winter they had at the time. And it was -4 degrees. So you guys can imagine. I was just like, I don't know if you guys know the comedian of Sophia with all the covering. So that was how I dressed until I now realized, even though I researched warm clothing and everything, but I didn't know about thermal clothing. So I got a lot of all these heavy warm clothing. If you see me going to the office, like my office was also somewhere in Dice around here, and I'll move from the train station to the office, they'll tell you, oh, it's just a 10 minutes walk. You know how it is. And we're not used to walking in Nigeria because we drove to everywhere. I had a car in Port Harcourt, so I wasn't used to the walking. With the cold and the walk, I just walked up to my manager and said, I want to go back to Nigeria. And I came as a specialist because there was nobody to run the service that I was brought in to run for that said company. And it was $1 million project. So they did everything they could to convince me to stay. And as my manager will always say, 15 years later, I'm still here from wanting to go back to settling finally. So Face Youth was born out of, when I came, it was a little bit isolating for me. There were not many black people, young people like myself. So I didn't find a lot of groups or friends or people that I could speak to, even when I was dealing with stuff. So I dealt with a lot, cultural barriers, from emotional breakdown. I had depression a couple of times, and like Mama Beta said, sometimes when you're going through grief or something, they tell you, oh, you have to talk to one service or the other. And you know that all you need at the time, or it's just a hug. I'm a huggy, touchy, feely type of person. I'll also tell you guys the story of the first time I went offshore to do the work that I was assigned to do. I got offshore. Normally in Nigeria, I had the attention of being the only female engineer on the rig, so I always felt special, privileged at the same time. And I'm a very friendly person, so I like the hug, I like the smile, I play with everybody. I'm used to it because even in school, when I was studying engineering, I was one of the few female engineers as well. I think there were two of us in my power engineering class, electrical electronics. So we had options, right? So we had the power option, well, just two of us. So I'm used to that kind of attention, being the only girl. I'm friendly with the guys, not platonic, right? So we hug, they hold you, they do whatever they like. So it carried on with my work. It helps with mental health. You all would agree, So I'm just used to that. When I got offshore here, it was different. Everybody was like cold, and it's okay. So I understood the culture. It was my first cultural shock. But I didn't know that it will linger on that when you greet somebody, the person will not even say good morning back to you. It was a shock to me. I was like, what's going on here? I mean, we're working together and I'm saying good morning and you're not saying anything. So I learned, I quickly adjusted. It took me a while though. So those things were affecting me mentally. But I just got on with my job. Even when I came, the first time I landed on the on the rig, the company man said, a woman, because they were expecting a man, like, full specialist flown from Nigeria to come and run this too. And it's you, a woman, a young girl, like, quickly called my manager and escalated the company man. So they were like, this girl is the only person that can run this equipment globally. So she is your expert. Take it or leave it. So I was like, oh my God. When my manager called me, I said, I must not fail. I did not sleep for 48 hours. You guys can imagine. Because I wanted to prove myself. I didn't want to leave the job. Like, I didn't even want any problem at all on that job. I did not sleep at all. Number one is, so when he did that, I was like, okay, bring it on. They gave me a room and said I was going to share. Normally in Nigeria, I share rooms with guys. I don't mind. And I said I wasn't going to share room with anybody. And I knew that the next thing was to ask the company man to give up his room. And he gave up his like 5-star bedroom for me. I was like, yes, I won that one. So he was so upset. The guy he was doing everything to work against me. He will come and tell my Didi, like we had other engineers working. Who is that girl? What does she even know? So for that specialized equipment, I work with people a lot in our HQ at product center at Houston. So I told them that normally the job is supposed to be for every shift, offshore is 12 hours and you must go and sleep, you must rest. So it's a safety problem, it's a safety issue if you don't go to sleep after your 12 hours shift, because that reset is very important. So I spoke to my manager and say, please, can you make reasonable adjustment for me? And let's get an exemption that I can't sleep because I don't want this job to fail. They said they can't do it, that it's going to, in fact, the thing was escalated so much that the approval was going to be sent to even beyond almost going to the presidency, because we had a system, in all those companies, you have a system that you can't, it's not like Nigeria that you can do anything and you get away with it. If it was in Nigeria, I was doing it in Nigeria and nobody cares. So all those things, they come and say, if you're fine, everybody is fine. So, but I remember the last one I did was in Ghana. Similar job. I stayed up almost 36 hours. And I mean, I didn't have any problem. Nobody made a fuss about it, and the job was successful, and everybody was happy. The company man, I got recommendation. In fact, that was one of the recommendations that made them transfer me to come and run the job in the UK, because UK was about the biggest market for us at the time for that service. So, that day, at the end of the day, I was also the one that suggested that, okay, can we erect like a makeshift bed in our cabin for me? And that was the company man kicked against it, and eventually agreed with everything, because I was like, if we can't do that, then I can't do the job. I don't want my name. Let them take me out of the rig that day. Med evacuate me, whatever they want to do, that I can't do the job. So he reluctantly agreed. And we did the job, and it was one of the, even the same guy that says this a woman was the first to start sending the recommendation that they've never seen a job like that. Because even when I went beyond even my own line of duty. There's another equipment that we run that requires radioactive source. You all know what radioactive source is, right? It's very dangerous. So we always say distance, time, and exposure. That's how to limit exposure to radioactive source. It can kill you immediately. So normally, when they want to run the nuclear tool in the UK, it was like big ceremony. They will suit up, and then the guys will be fiddling with it. And what's going on? You guys are exposing yourself with all these things you are doing. So when it was time to run the tool, the echoscope, I just quickly put on my suit, because I was also trained to do that. It was part of the service as logging while drilling engineer. So I'm like, I have the certificate, I'm trained to do it. So I told the guy that was supposed to be running the echoscope, just move the company man was just watching me, move the source. So normally, operation that used to take them like an hour or two, I performed it in 15 minutes. So it was like a miracle, like it was magic. So the company man was like, who is this girl? And the tool, they tested it functioned well. I saved him just by that 2 hours rig time. So the guy was like, this girl, she kind of know what she's doing. So it was his first time, like, kind of validating or accepting me for the first time. But trust me, I gave the guy stress and attitude. And to the glory of God, because man, I fasted though. I was fasting on the road. I was like, God, this job must not go wrong. This is the time for you to glorify yourself and your daughter. And to the glory of God, it was one of the best jobs of my career. In fact, it was what propelled my career. And I will say the reason why I am even here today. So let me not bore you with the story, because I said that if I talk about Face Youth and talk about my story, we are going to sleep here. And I don't know. So Face Youth is an organization registered in Scotland. Let me go back to the Face Youth. It's registered in Scotland, and we're operating in Aberdeen. We run different programs, from mental health services to educational programs. So awareness is key. That's what I believe, right? And we have youth empowerment programs. We run our monthly mental health awareness program every third Saturday of the month, and it's virtual. So although next year we're planning to bring that human, because I believe that we should have a space where we have this conversation. So we need to create a space where people can come and talk about their mental health and well-being, even socialize, so, because it helps. A lot of women, I see most men, they have a lot of men groups everywhere. So it's not just women, it's for young people, and everybody is welcome. But we should have a space where we have discussion about what affects us in our community, at work, and then we'll be able to share. Lawson, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we have an event coming up on the 30th of November. It's our Christmas ball and fundraising event, and it's going to be at Crown Plaza at the Aberdeen Airport. You are all welcome. If you want a ticket, you can speak to me afterwards. Sorry, I have to run off. I guess that was why, because I have another event, but I'm coming back for the celebration. So if you want to speak to me, you can speak to me later. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry to bore you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Ify. You can see that she's passionate about what she does. And like you said, she can talk through the day because of what she likes doing. Thank you so much. Key things to remember: that she has a charity, Face Youth, that helps with mental health, education, and empowerment. So go check her out on pages on LinkedIn, and I think you have a website as well. Remember her ball on the 30th of November, Christmas ball. You can reach out to her and she can give you more details. You're welcome. Thanks for attending the event today. And now we now go to the next segment of today's event, a very special presentation today. Very, 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 very special. When we're talking about domestic abuse challenges and how to handle it, one of the key points was finance. That finance plays a key part of the challenges. And the next topic is very important on how to tackle that financial challenge. The topic is financial resilience. How to be resilient financially and how to stand your ground. And I want to thank especially the speaker, our daddy, who has patiently been waiting. He's granted us mercy and clemence over and over again. So please, the next presentation will be made by Deacon Francis a big bowler. If I pronounce it wrongly, sir, my knees are on the ground. Thank you. He's an ordained minister at the Redeemed Christian Church of God. He holds a Master of Business Administration degree in Management and Accounting from the prestigious University of Ife. I agree, that university is prestigious. Let's put our hands together. Of Ife, now Abafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria, and an MBA in finance from Strayer University, Washington, D.C., all the way from the United States. That's a long journey. That's a long journey indeed. Please, let's make welcome everyone, Deacon Francis Ebigbola, as he speaks to us on financial resilience. You're very welcome, sir. Please clap your hands as he comes. He has been waiting patiently all the way from the United States of America. Welcome to Aberdeen, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you're watching this program. I want to appreciate and acknowledge the grace of God for being here this morning. It's taken me over 6,000 miles away to come for this program. And I want to also appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want to thank the management and the team of Time to Heal. I want to say congratulations for your 10th year anniversary. I know there are service users here, there are sponsors, there are volunteers, there are guests. I want to recognize each and every one of you, and I want to appreciate the leadership of Reverend Abiola Kran under the Time to Heal for what he's doing. I've been personally impacted by what Time to Heal is doing, and I'm regular on some of your programs, like the Conversation Cafe, I think. I used to attend that occasionally during my lunchtime. So when this comes up and the discussion came up, I said, okay, I will be there. So I had to come all the way to attend this. Thank you so much. Some of the speakers that have spoken have said it all. Our lawyer mentioned about how domestic abuse can be physical, verbal, emotional, and he said financial. So in my own position, I'm going to be talking about how to empower survivors of domestic abuse. How can they build financial resilience for victims of domestic abuse? So that's what I'll be talking about. And so I have empowering survivors, building financial resilience for victims of domestic abuse. And so I want us to understand that, okay, so that's my presentation here, International Conference on Violence Against Women, ICOVAW 2024 in Aberdeen, Scotland. Empowering survivors, building financial resilience for victims of domestic abuse. Like I said, my name is Francis Ebigbola. Ebigbola means wealth. So it means a family of wealthy people. That is what Ebigbola means, Francis Ebigbola. I'm trying to move to the next. Okay. So I want us to establish the objectives. And I want to say well done to everyone that's here again today here. You know, in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12, it says, wisdom is the defense, and money is the defense. It says, but the excellency of wisdom is that it gives life to those that have it. And I'm seeing this convention combining wisdom with money. So wisdom is the defense, and money is the defense. For as many as are participating in this conference, either in here or online, you are combining the defense mechanisms of wisdom and money. That means God appreciates the fact, the creator of the universe appreciates that we all need wisdom and we all need money. Okay, so like the Bible also says that which of you want to build a house? We not sit down first and count the cost and see if you have enough to do it, lest you start and you're not able to complete it. So God acknowledges that we all need money. And so when we talk about abuse, it's very important that we pay attention to what we need to do. And so I'm getting these objectives out here for this presentation. I said this, it outlined the financial challenges faced by survivors of domestic abuse, and it provides resources and empowering strategies for building financial resilience. So that's one of the objectives we want to achieve here. The second thing is I want us to make this clear that while women are frequently seen as the primary victims, it is crucial to recognize that men can experience domestic abuse. And there might be more women here than the men because it's an international conference for victims of domestic abuse, and this is a women program, basically. But I know every woman here. You have a son, you have a brother, you have an uncle, you have a father, you have family members who might be going through abuse in one way or the other too. And that because you are empowered and you can have this understanding, Where you spot one happening to your son, to your brother, to your uncle, you can easily identify, oh, my uncle is going through an abuse. My son is going through an abuse. And you can help that individual out. And that's why it's very important that we all pay attention. But men do go through abuse too. And in fact, there's a research in the United States that say 1 out of every 7 men goes through an abuse. The only thing about men is that because of ego, they don't talk about it. Because the society doesn't believe them, they believe, oh, the women are the weaker vessels, so the men tend to keep quiet. And even when they speak up, sometimes people try to underrate what they are going through. But I tell you, men also cry. Okay? Then this discussion aims to empower survivors, whether man or woman, by understanding their struggles and building financial resilience for both sexes. So let's recognize the patterns of domestic abuse. Many times we look at domestic abuse as the physical violence. And some of our speakers have already identified them in one way or the other. Domestic abuse is a pervasive problem that impacts individuals and families across the globe. And to recognize domestic abuse, I would say it can be physical violence, which means you see somebody hitting someone or slapping them or using objects to harm them. That's the one we are very familiar with. But there are other forms of domestic abuse, and it can be undermining parental roles. There are instances where people will use children even as tools to manipulate. It's an abuse. There are instances where the emotional and psychological manipulation, like somebody belittling you, making you like as if you have no value, trying to talk you down, making you feel that you are not as important, that they can do without you. That is an abuse. It's emotional, it's psychological manipulation, mocking and criticisms. There could be sexual manipulation. It's an abuse. And that is when people are denying or using sex as a tool of manipulation. And like they want a favor from you, you have to do certain things for them to do it. There'll be instances where the woman will tell the man, oh, your mates are how they are doing jobs, making money, you are there asking for this. You're a lazy man, you are this, so they belittle you. And many times we've seen men go out of the houses, the homes, looking for comfort, looking for where to lay their shoulder outside, because the house becomes a hell for such men. But the outcome is what people know. And I'm saying this because you may have a brother or an uncle or a son somewhere, or a brother who might be going through that. It might be under an abuse, which can fall under this too. Then there could be false accusations, unfounded accusations or threats of legal action. If you do anything, I will do this to you, I will accuse you. I've seen people tell their spouses and say, I will lie on you, and they will believe me. Whatever I tell them, they're going to believe. I'll make sure I destroy you. Such people have made such comment. It's an abuse. And there could be love bombing. That is when you see people, oh, you know we've been this before. Why are you doing this? You know I love you. You know I can do it. You know I don't mean it. But you think they are really serious about it. But no, they're going to repeat the same act again. It's an abuse. Abuse is something that is of a trend. It's not like a one-time thing. Once it follows a pattern and a trend, it becomes an abuse. And that is where we can separate between discipline and abuse, even between parents and their children. There could be discipline, but there's a line where discipline becomes an abuse. And that is why we need to pay attention. It can come in any of these flavors. And when you see one and you spot one, you need to watch out so that you can see what you do. Then I mentioned about financial control. That is when somebody tries to use money to manipulate you, that, oh, you can't really do anything on your own unless somebody signs off on it and say, oh, do this, do that. Is the one that's taking charge of everything. There are women that have been subject to such abuse where it's the man that controls the bank account. The woman is putting money in that account, but it's the man that is actually spending the money. And the woman, before they can do anything, they must get permission, even when it involves taking care of their own families. the man must sign off on it before they can even spend, even for their own parents. And I know, like one of the people that contributed before said, the social media has helped now, putting out there a lot of abuses people are going through. So the new generation, they are trying to make sure that they can afford, okay, you keep an account, I keep an account. Then we have a joint account. So if I need to buy anything for me, for my family, for my mother, for my father, I should be able to go in there and just spend that money to take care of people that have worked so far. Have worked to take me to where I am now, for you to even see me. Then I say, recognizing the patterns. Then the next thing I say, how do we understand the financial challenges of domestic abuse? Now, victims of domestic abuse face numerous financial challenges, including loss of income. These are basically some of the basic financial challenges that they will face. There will be loss of income for victims of domestic abuse, because it comes to a point where the victims are forced to quit whatever is giving them source of income. We have seen situations where they will have to relocate out of their present areas, and they have to go elsewhere. They might need to escape the abuse. They might need to go to a new location. People may even have to cross borders sometimes to seek for relief somewhere. So there's a loss of income. And they lose access to their accounts or experience reduced work hours. Then another challenge they could face is limited resources. Our victims may lack the knowledge, the skills, or support needed to navigate the financial system. Is it that they don't have the understanding, the knowledge? People don't pay too much attention to money. When you work, it's better to work. But sometimes you work so hard, but we don't work smart. It's not how much you make, it's how you spend it. I remember back in Africa when I was working in our banks and we are competing with designing the GTBs. I used to work with Chartered Bank then. And our MD would tell us and say, even if you are not making as much money as GTB or Zenith, but how do we make sure we are profitable? So we have to balance the cost, the benefit, the income and expenses. So it's not just working hard, but we have to work smart. And I don't see why someone that's earning $10, 10 pounds, 10 euros in an hour will go for a 4-bedroom duplex when you are even working extra hours. You're working 16 hours every day, but because you want to show off that, you are living in a 4-bedroom duplex and you are spending all the money you're making and you're paying for mortgages. It doesn't make sense. You're working so hard, you're not working smart. So there could be limited resources where victims lack the knowledge and the skills and the support they need to navigate the financial system. Then there could be debt accumulation. The abusers may use the victims' credit cards or force them to take out loans, leaving them with overwhelming debt. Every time there's an abuse, it could come in form of financial abuse, such that the partners, the money that two people have worked together for now is in the hand of one person, and the other person is not having access to be able to spend that money. They have to go out there looking for ways to survive, go into credit card debts, accumulating loans that they could not pay off. In fact, we have come to understand that when people get married and they are taking loans before, now when they come together and they are responsible in one way or the other for the debts and the loans of the other person. So that's why even people that are getting married now, you want to be sure some part of the discussion should be how much school loan do you have? So that I know what I'm getting into. Because if the person are taking so much loans, maybe it's about 50,000 pounds or euros out there, and you marry to him, you need to know that that's part of your debt portfolio. Because eventually, the two of you are going to start paying that loan. So you want to ask so many questions. It's not just I love you kind of a thing. There are deeper things that you need to know about that person, especially the financial aspect of it. Apart from the earth, you need to understand what the finance of that person looks like. So there could be debt accumulation. Now, we're talking about barriers to financial independence. I put these symbols here to let you have an idea of what it looks like to the person that is experiencing it. You see, I put that person that is putting his head like somebody's in a prison. Like, how do I get out of this? Barriers to financial independence. Survivors of domestic abuse face a multitude of barriers to achieving financial independence. And these barriers can include lack of access to financial resources. In most cases, people that are abusers, they control the family's finances. They leave survivors with limited funds or access to their own money. That's one of the barriers that happen to financial independence when there are incidents of domestic abuse. There are limited job opportunities. The survivors, they struggle to find employment due to lack of education, work experience, or the ability to maintain stable employment due to the trauma they've endured. It's not because they don't have the certificates or the degrees or this experience. Some are because they could not find the employment because of their education, especially for people that have been made to be housewives. I think it's changing now, where both people are working. But most times there are people that take care of the children, I go work, and then they are the one controlling the finances. That is very dangerous for the 20th century woman. Then the work experience, sometimes they've gone through some trauma that they can't even concentrate at work anymore because of what is happening in the house. And so there are limited job opportunities. There are people that have to be absent from work because of what they are going through. They're either in the doctor's offices here and there, or because there are something that are going on in their heads. Emotionally, they are disturbed, they're trauma. So they could not make as much income that they would have made if there was no abuse going on. And of course, people are talking out now, but there are lots of situations where people don't talk before. So survivors may be saddled with debt incurred by the abusers. Like I mentioned before, when you talk about school loans, there are loans that are joined, there are mortgages that are there. So you might, as a survivor, you might find out that you have something going on that is not just in your own name, but in the name of the other person who was the abuser. And so what do? Those are barriers. Then I said lack of financial knowledge. Survivors may have limited financial literacy, making it challenging to manage their finances effectively and build long-term financial stability, which means you can have the degree, you can be anything, but you might not know much about managing money. And that is why you see situation people, it's not how much you make, it's how do you spend it. That is very important. Do we see people that can be in this country for maybe 10 years, somebody that come in 5 years, and you see what they are doing within 5 years, and you see yourself 10 years, because you are dipping your hands in too many things that shouldn't have any business doing. Because many of us, we have this cultural thing that makes us to want to compete with each other, to want to show that I've arrived, to want to, it's just a show off. It doesn't add any value to anybody's life. Cut your coat according to your size. That's what makes sense. Then there's fear and intimidation. Survivors may fear repercussions from their abusers, or if they attempt to gain financial independence. We've talked about fear before when our lawyer was speaking, that some people, they cannot speak because of fear. What will happen? And Mommy Bita, I think, mentioned about how the culture is like, is your husband, just take it like that, just be understanding, and you are suppressed to continue to bear those things. So there's fear and intimidation. So those are barriers for financial independence for the survivors. So how do you build financial resilience? I said there are multifaceted approach you can use for immediate needs and your long-term financial goals. The first thing is safety planning. And someone mentioned that you have to make sure you are safe. Prioritize your safety first. Because you are under abuse, you want to make sure you are safe and you have a plan to secure housing and financial resources, potentially working with organizations specializing in domestic abuse support, like Time to Heal. So you want to look for places like, for companies like Time to Heal, and say, hey, there's something going on. This is what it is. They can give you some advice and say, go this way. Because it comes to a point when you're going through that process. There are copies of statements that you need to keep. I've seen situations where a woman and a man, they are building houses together. Even out there in Africa, everybody is spending money and putting it together. And at a point in time, under the domestic abuse, the woman could not take it anymore and needed to escape. And the man says, it's my house. I built it. And at one time, I had to advise, I said, you go, it was good enough for you that you still have some transactions that went through the banking system. So you have some financial audit trail. Go tell your bank and make statements of those transactions that you made to show that you are part of this building. And that really helped. So that we don't have to go into cash every time. Even when it comes to paying tuition for the children, it's like, I'm the one thinking of the children. You are not. You are not. I have transactions that show that I am the one paying the school fees. Because the station is now that you have some women that are actually the breadwinners. But the man at the end of this, he come with this ego, is my house. And they want to send the woman away. After all the toil, it's not fair enough. So, like I said, you need financial counseling. You need to develop a budget and how to manage your debt. And then explore strategies for building savings and credit. We'll go to them in a few minutes. Then I said you need to access resources and programs that will provide job training, skills development, and job placement assistance to help survivors re-enter the workforce. Because they need to go back to the workforce. They have gone through trauma. There are a lot of experience they have gone through. You know, when people go through this abuse, it's the person that's on the spot that knows what he or she is going through. Nobody, no family member, no pastor, no clergy, nobody knows. It's you that's on the spot. It's you that feel the pains. So when you understand it gets to a point where you can't deal with it anymore, you need to escape. Because people will not understand what you're going through until you make your mind and say, I cannot take this anymore. It's too much for me. Because your life is very important. Then I mentioned about legal assistance. Of course, they're going to see the lawyers. Maybe when you get in touch with support groups like Time to Heal, they're going to direct you to the right resources and say, oh, there are people that can help you to put your things together, that can advise you on what you need to do from the legal perspective, on how you present your case in the court, how you can get some child support, how you can get something on alimony and things like that. So you need some legal assistance. So this are the things we do to build financial resilience. Financial counseling is very important. Employment support is important, and legal assistance is very important. I want us to quickly talk about financial literacy. Financial literacy is very crucial for survivors because that is when they can make informed financial decisions and achieve financial stability. It's essential for them, number one, to understand some basic financial concepts. Concepts like budgeting, like saving, like investing. I mean, budgeting is very important. If somebody is earning 2,000 euros, 2,000 pounds in a month, and at the end of the month is planning to spend 3,000, he's spending more than he's earning already. So every month you're going to go into a budget, into deficit. That means every month you'll be having debts accumulating. And you might be under that situation where your abuser is someone that is in that situation, that there are situations where the men and the women, they don't share the same views when it comes to money. The man spends money and they want to put on this, and the woman is the one trying to say, let's slow down, let's slow down. So in that situation, you need to have an understanding of the financial concept. Budgeting, savings, investing. Develop a realistic budget that aligns with your income and your expenses. Like I said, you can't be making 2,000 and be thinking of spending 3,000. It does not make any sense and it doesn't add value to somebody's life. You're just going to work and work and work and work. And life does not have any duplicates. Learn how to manage your debt effectively, potentially through debt consolidation or repayment plans. We are talking about survivors of domestic abuse. It used to be two people facing this before. It's one person now. So it's very important for that individual, whether it's your brother, your sister, your uncle, for them to have an understanding that they need to manage their debts now more effectively, because it could be through repayment plans that we have to make. It might be through debt consolidation. And they have to develop strategies for building savings and achieving long-term financial goals. There's this 70-20-10 rule we have. It's a rule of budgeting. What that means is that if you are making 10,000 euros every month, 70% of it should go for living expenses. Living expenses, then you have 20% go to savings and investment, and 10% go to debt repayment or donations. 70, 20, 10 rule of budgeting. That's what it says. The living expenses, it can be things that you need to do that is very, very important for you. They are your needs. You are living in a house, you want to pay mortgages. In fact, there's a rule that says if you are spending more than 30% to 40% of your income, more than that on mortgages, you're already mortgaging your financial future. Because if you are making 10,000, you're spending 50, 60,000, you're making 100,000 in a year, you're spending 60,000 at the end of the year for mortgages, that's too much. So you have to work within the 30%, 40% to make sure that's what you have. But all the living expenses, about 70%. Then 20%, let that be your savings and your investment. And let the 10% be for debt repayment, gradually paying back. Like I said before, now it is one person that's bearing the cost. It's not two people before. I know the Bible said two are better than one, because they will have, apart from warming each other, it says they'll be able to lift each other up. We want to fall down, the down will lift up. But I always say you're talking about two good heads. It's not just any two heads. It has to be two good heads that are better than one. And then there's the 50-30-20 rule. The 50-30-20 rule says that 50% should be for your needs. And for that, you're talking about your housing. You're talking about food. You're talking about transportation, utilities. These are the things that you would normally spend money on. They are your needs. 50% of your income should go on that. So for the survivors, if you did not be doing that before, maybe it's in the hand of the abuser. Now you are the one that to take charge of your financial future. 50% of what you have, let it go towards your needs. And that's why, even if you are living in a 5-bedroom house before, what works for you at this time might just be a 2-bedroom apartment. Don't bother about it. You get out of it. Just go into that situation first and get yourself back on track. Then you can still go back to where you are. But at that instance, just downplay and let 50% goes into your needs. 30% should go into your wants. The wants are those things that necessarily you don't, you can afford not to do them. Oh, I want to go for vacation. I want to travel. They are wants. And the difference between needs and wants. Many times we confuse wants with needs. A 17-year-old need to go to school. Want to pay the tuition. But a 17-year-old may want to drive a car. That's not a need. It's a want. I want it. It doesn't mean that you need it. So we need to be able to separate between needs, want, and the 20% can be for the debt repayment we talk about. Making sure that we are able to take care of debts that have been accumulated, either by the two people or by yourself that you are facing to repay back. I talk about accessing safe and affordable banking services. The survivors, they oftentimes they face challenges as accessing traditional banking services due to limited credit history. Most times you see people going for like mortgages, they combine the income of the two people, they get a house, a big house, and they're living there. But now it's one person. So sometimes they have some challenges in being able to access traditional banking services. And especially when the abuse was going on, it was such a situation where some money were not being paid regularly. So the credit history is already going bad already. So now by the time the abuse actually and you escape, you are faced with that thing because it's what's in both names. And so there might be problem in accessing safe and affordable banking services. But at this time, what you want to look for is to look for community-based financial institutions. These are the ones that provide financial services tailored to needs of low-income and marginalized individuals, including survivors of domestic abuse. We have the second chance banking programs. These programs allow individuals with limited credit history or a history of financial difficulties to establish bank relationship again. Then you have prepaid debit cards. These are cards that offer secure and convenient way to access funds. So if you get 10 of the support groups, then you might be able to talk to them, or a financial counseling that we talk about. They can guide you to the banks, the second chance banking programs that you can go to at that time to be able to get yourself back on feet. Then it's very important that you rebuild credit because you're not going to stay in that situation forever. We know the credits have been bastardized, have been messed up because of what happened, but you want to rebuild it. So what you want to do is make sure you pay your bills on time. Consistent bill payments demonstrate responsibility of financial management and improve your credit score. So make sure you are paying your bills on time. Even if you can't pay much than you used to, at least the minimum, just pay for that period of time and make sure you are paying. Because if you don't, it goes in your credit history and it goes to make situation much, much worse when you want to get yourself back on feet. Then make sure you use your credit responsibly. Survivors use credit cards cautiously and make payments on time to avoid accruing high interest rates and damaging their credit history. Try to see if you can get a separate credit card. There was a credit card that you both had before that was in both names. Try to get your own credit card now. Try to report that you want to get out of that situation and have your own in your own name. You need to have a new account, a new bank account that will have your name so that you can now work on your own credit. Then you want to monitor your credit reports. There are free credit reports that's available. I think it should be in Europe, where you have the Experian, the TransUnion, about 3 of them. At least you're entitled to one free report every year. And there are those credit karma that they are monitoring your credit for you. They can give you alert if something happens to your credit. Just register with them for a nominal fee and they can alert you if anything was going on. Because the one that was abused before will not stop. It will still go ahead to do certain things to make sure they deal with you. The idea for the abuser is when you say you go, they still want to run after you. Because they want to make sure that you feel that they are no more in your life. So they are not going to leave you alone. They still want to prove it to you that you will need to run back again. And the only thing they can do for you is to make sure they mess you up a little more, especially if you are dealing with a narcissist. I'm sure some of them do the narcissist. So for those that have the NPD, they will go after you. They will run and make sure they won't just stop because you leave. They're still going to make sure they prove it to the whole world that you can't survive without them. So they will go after. So we want to make sure you are monitoring your credit reports. Then we're going to navigate legal regulatory frameworks. So we're going to seek legal counsel with our lawyers and ask them, what do I do now? Legal recourse against abusers who have misused their finances. You're going to look for a financial professional, consider hiring a divorce coach. Debt survivors may be able to seek relief from debt obligations incurred by their abusers or during their abusive relationship, like child support. You want to be sure that you can pursue such payment from their abusers because you need it to support your children. I'm trying to work within the minutes I have. You need a personalized financial roadmap. So what that means is that when I say your financial roadmap, it's like a GPS, which means for your financial journey, you need to have something that can guide you towards your goals and help you navigate the twists and the turns that you are going to go. It's like a GPS. So the first thing you want to define, what is your financial goal? And you know that when it comes to this domestic abuse, many people are in that abuse, but they could not leave because of the finance. They are just there suffering quietly because what will I do without this man? Where would I start from? That is what goes on in their minds. So they are there suffering and suffering until something bad, really bad happens. And that is why it's very important that you have a roadmap. Apart from our escape, think of what happened the day this man, that you're not in that man's house anymore. Or, like I said, men too go through it. There are women that have dealt with men in various forms and they have to start all over again. 1 out of every 7 men go through it. Men cry too. So you want to assess your current financial situation. You gather all your financial information, including your income, your expenses, your assets and liabilities. Think of tax withholding. Because you are going to be filing now either as single or head of household, you're not going to file as married anymore. So what you want to do is you need to identify what are the income brackets. Sometimes you can work and you move out of your income bracket just by a few 100 or 200, and you're going to be in the new income bracket for paying your taxes. That's why you need to have an understanding of your tax withholding. If you are married, there are income brackets, and I believe it happened in Europe too. There are income brackets where you say married, you need to earn between maybe 100,000 to 150,000 to be in this particular income bracket. And you are the only one person now, you're going to be filing either as single or head of household. Then you want to see that you don't cross the one for the married. Maybe you've been working 16 hours before. Sometimes you just want to slow down so that you don't cross that margin and pay an exorbitant tax and fall into a tax bracket that will be too expensive for you. Update your beneficiaries on your life insurance policy. Because now, some of us maybe put your spouse as a beneficiary before. If anything happens to you, there are people that have even killed themselves because they know they were on the life insurance. All they are thinking is the money, the life insurance that the person holds, and they go after the life of that individual. So now you need to quickly update that. You need to take him off and to take her off. Think of your children alone. They are beneficiaries. Then be focused. Don't allow emotion to cloud your judgment about marital home. It's a good advice for survivors because many times people think, oh, if I leave this house, people will think I'm finished. They get so emotional to the house, and it could be very costly to keep that house. Because two people were paying, even if not people were paying the mortgage before, maybe the man was paying the mortgage, and you were busy paying the utilities, but now it's going to be you paying everything. And you still want to keep to the house. You say, and you know in this part of the world where the women say, you have to get out of this house for me. This is not Africa. You are going to get out. And the men are pushed out of the house, and they leave. And the woman, 3 months down the line, find out that she can't even pay the mortgage anymore. And so they get too emotional with it. If you need to sell the house, please sell it, downgrade and move to a lower place where you can pay less mortgage. Don't get too emotional to that house and say, oh, what will my friends say? What will my family say? It doesn't add any value to anybody. We need to be financially intelligent. They talk about financial planning. Divorce leaves you in debt due to legal bills and other associated costs. There's no way this abuse thing leads to divorce that won't lead to some accumulation of debt. You have to pay your lawyers. It's not every time that the person going through it, we have to throw the cost of legal bills on the abuser. Sometimes it might be the person that will have to pay it. So you need financial planning. Create a comprehensive financial plan that will address your immediate needs and your long-term financial goals. Certain that you don't need. You want to downgrade. The space you are using for the garage, there are a lot of things in the garage that you don't even need. There are shoes you bought 5 years ago that you have not even put on your feet. Take care of those things. Change your auto insurance plans. Change your cell phone plans. If you are using unlimited, change it to one you can manage with your new income. Protect your phone records too. Fight alimony. Pay your spouse off rather than paying alimony for life. Sometimes you may be the one that have to pay the alimony for the rest of your life. 10 years, you have continue paying. If you need to pay it now, just pay it now and forget about whatever it is. So that somebody is not still running after your money for the next 15, 20 years. Then we talk about budgets. You need to create budgets. Track your expenses. Monitor your income and spending so that you can identify the areas that you need to improve, the one that you need to make some financial informed decisions. Manage your debt. There are high interest debt, there are low interest debt. You have to decide, am I going to pay the one with higher interest first or the one with lower interest? There are two ways to it. There are people that if you hold maybe 200 euros, 500 euros, some people will start with the one with 200 euros, even when the interest rate is higher, because they believe it makes them feel like a form of achievement. Oh, the 200 euro, I paid it off. The 500, I paid it off. The 700, I paid it off. It gives some level of relief for you. It depends on your individual person. Some people will prefer to go for the high interest rates first and say, oh, I'm going to deal with this one headlong and take care of it and bring it down. Then I'll go for the lower interest rate. Whatever works for you, but make sure it's something that you have to take off. Then build an emergency fund. These are for unexpected expenses like medical bills, car repairs, job loss. Mama, Mommy there mentioned about people, the diaspora insurance for death. Those are the things you want to prepare. You want to make sure that emergency fund, so that we don't go for GoFundMe if anything happens. You want to be able to put some money in emergency. Every morning you earn every month, you should have money saved for emergency. If it is just 1% or 2% of work for 15 days or 10 working days, you should have something to say this is saving. Many of us, we can say, okay, I'm going to pay my tithe, but you must also have something for saving. It's very important. You can't work for 10 working days without having at least £1 or £2 and say this is what I have in emergency. It's very important. Maybe when you are under the abuse, you might not be able to think about it, but now it's very important that you think about it. Set aside at least 3 to 6 months living expenses. That is the recommendation. 3 to 6 months of your salaries should be in an emergency fund. Then you can face other things. So if you don't have any money in emergency, don't start talking of vacations and going on cruise and going on this. Start saving for emergency because anything can happen. Nobody is promised tomorrow. Use your credit wisely. Avoid excessive credit card debt. Pay bills on time and use credit responsibly. These are some of the budgeting and money management I want us to think of. Then think of collaborative partnerships and support services. That is where we have domestic violence shelters, financial literacy programs, support groups, job training programs. I'm sure Time to Heal is out there to support people in these local areas to make sure they have access to all this information and some other charity organizations around. It's a great thing that Time to Heal is in this environment. And it's great that everybody in this area should have an idea there's a Time to Heal in Aberdeen and other partnership around here. Then you want to think of retirement. Start saving early for retirement. You don't have to work for 20 years before you retire. There are people that are just 40 years old and they retire. They stop the 9 to 5 work because they have done a lot of investments and they are just good for the next 40 years. So it's not, you don't have to work till you are 70 years old and still be working in the store at age of 75. You don't have to. You can do whatever you need to do now, starting of retirement now. Build up your assets in stocks, bonds, real estate, other assets that can grow your wealth over time. Consider buying a home to build equity and create a stable living environment. You need education. You need to develop your skills. Don't be complacent with what you have. Always learning new things. Continue learning new things. Because that is what will add value to your lives. Like we are learning now. And I say a call to action by addressing the financial challenges faced by survivors. You see how that woman raised up his hands? What do we do next? Here we go. Support. Let's provide survivors with access to essential financial resources and support services like we are doing now. Let's offer empathy, encouragement, and resources to survivors that are seeking to rebuild their lives. Let's promote financial literacy and empower survivors to make informed financial decisions. Let's advocate for policies and laws that protect survivors' financial rights and their financial obligations. Those are the things we are doing now. Some of us are here today. Some of us are watching online in different areas, part of the world. We have cousins, we have uncles, we have brothers and sisters. These are the things we want to pass across to them. If you are going through any of these are the things you need to do. We're going to reach out. That falls under the speak out and seek for help. I will discuss much earlier. Thank you all for listening. I don't know if there are questions. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Here, I've worked with women. The problem is that the man comes first. A lot of us come through husband coming to study, and then you join him. He's the one that opens the bank account. Then you come a year later, he said, oh, there's no need for you to open an account. And you can just give my account to the workplace. And this is how they end up through this. There are women that work, they don't even know the PIN number to go to the bank, because the man controls everything. Then secondly, sometimes it's the woman that take care of the house here, paying the rent, buying the food and all this, and the man will say, we are building a house back at home.
Yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of women are not aware that their names are not on the deeds
Yeah.
of the house.
Oh, yes.
Until one day you are talking to your mother-in-law, you say, it's my son's house. And we have had instances of men use up the woman's account, and then maybe the woman say, just wait for a year, let me do my master's. And the man will say no, and just carry everything, go home, and the woman is left here with nothing. So what can women do about this?
Oh, thank you so much, man, for that observation. I agree with you. We see that often. It happens. Um, it requires some level of understanding when you are dealing with such individuals. Uh, it's not every man that will play into that role. There are some men that are sensible enough and understand enough, and they plan together as a family. I think the basic thing that we need to work at is the man and the woman, are they friends? It's not every marriage you see that they are friends. It's not. People get married not because they are friends. Some situations just bring them together and they are together. And a friend is someone you can dare to be yourself. It's someone that you know, that you care for. And so you will not want to hurt someone that you actually care for. And so when a woman finds herself in that situation, it's because the man was never her friend in the first place. Because I can't imagine a man building a house. You're in the same house with your woman, you are putting money together, you sleep maybe on the same bed, and you are doing something in the village, you don't have a name on it. It's not fair. It's not fair. So, but when the situations are like that, what you will expect the woman, the 20th century woman, what we should do is, it's good that you have an account in your name. I understand that you just come into the country 1 year, 2 years, you need to do it. But after that period, you are trying to establish yourself, try to create an account in your own name, even if it's just a savings account, and have a conversation about it. I want us to do this. If you have an account in your own name, I have an account in my own name, some little expenses, I don't have to wait for you to know that it's that time of the month. I need some money for myself. You need some money for yourself to spend, maybe for your uncles or brothers, your mother. But there's a joint account that we keep. So the three accounts are very important. One in my name, one in your name, and one as joint. It may not be immediately you come in to the country, but that should be the plan. That this is what we should do. Because it's very important that we take care of ourselves. That's what I would recommend to any woman. And if the man is not being reasonable enough, then it becomes an agenda. That's what it means. And in that situation, you still go ahead and do what you need to do without bringing him into that discussion.
I also think that this is a kind of education for all of us
Yes.
women, because I really can't understand why a man should stop me from opening an account. But there are
Yeah.
instances where we have taken women to the bank to open an account for themselves, but they wouldn't. They would say, oh, I can't do that. My husband is always my husband. And not only that, here, there are instances where a man is buying a house, the wife is not in the deeds.
That's not right.
And there are instances where the house belongs to the woman and the man have sold the house without her knowledge. Because I work with women, you hear all kinds of stories and you get all kinds of phone calls. So some of these questions we ask for the benefit of people that are so much in love that they don't they don't think of the shark around them. So it's for our own education that you should be wise. Your name is not on a thing. I remember going to buy a fridge, and my husband put his name, but I was the one paying. After I filled the form, I told the man, no, put my name there. I don't, I just said, I don't want his sister coming to say it's his fridge. It's my fridge. So you have to be wise, whether it's a house or an account. I agree 100% with what my brother said, that you should have your own account, because it's demeaning for you to go every day and beg a man, give me money to go and buy dress, give me money to send to my brother and all this. So if your father and your brother pay your school fees, no man should be controlling the purse. Oh, is she?
So I was waiting. um, I just want to say thank you, sir, for
Thank
the
you, man.
fabulous. I think we need to clap for our brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you. You know, very, very interesting. And I just want to say, even if you're not a Christian, there's something called wisdom. And the Bible is very clear about obtaining wisdom. And when you obtain it, put it like a pendant on your neck. All of us, we know the person we marry, unless if you want to deceive ourselves, you will know whether that person is a kind person or unkind. And the examples that our mother has provided, they're valid, but I think sometimes it's borderline stupidity. I'm sorry to be using the word stupid, because you are the one working. I'm a social worker by profession, so some of the things that my mom here said, they're real. You know, even sometimes some women will have to go and beg for sanitary towels.
Yes.
And I always wondered, there's something called personal responsibility. We can do this lecture, we can do this all day long. If you don't take it in, if the ideas are not becoming actions, we can't help you. Time to heal the women, African women, for Scottish women or whatever. We can do that all day long. But if you don't take the bold steps to actually do something about it, because at the end of the day, if you don't want to leave that man, one day the man may die. So what's the point? And some of us, we say because of the children. And I come in from London. Majority of the young people now, they don't want to marry because they've seen us living stupidly with their fathers, and they think, are your brain okay? Are you okay? And because of that, we're pushing them to get married, and they say, if that is what marriage is all about, I don't want to do it. So what I'm saying here this afternoon is, we need to start reflecting on what we've heard. We need to start thinking. I'm not saying that you get home and see your husbands as, you know, monsters, but there are some things that we need to take actions about. God bless you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. That's what I was referring to when I said the husband doesn't have to know it's that time of the month. Because there should be something you should be able to do. You don't wait to pick up the salt in the kitchen. You know, it's not right. And we talk about this domestic abuse. It's not just the slapping and the eating.
There's
If
emotional
you have
abuse.
a man
Yeah.
who believes that account should be in his name, that thing should be bought in his name, that deed should be in his name, that account, you don't need a separate account for your pay, for your direct deposit, it's a form of abuse. It's passive, but it's an abuse. You are an individual, you are a person, you are a daughter of someone, just like it's a son of someone. You went to school, your parents spent money on you. It is important, and it is very expedient that at the end of the time you remember your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, without having to run to the man and say this. You will have your own account to take care of those little things, miscellaneous. He has one for himself. Then there should be the joint, where for family expenses go into. That is an appropriate thing to do. So when you have a partner who doesn't share that same values with you, it's a form of abuse. It's very passive. But there is something going on in his head, and it's not too good for you as a person, especially with the kind of background we come from. Even when you put all those things together, there are many things that you as a person can have now, and if anything, in the face of death, they're not even going to be available for anybody. In fact, I don't know how many of you know about what they call a living trust. because many people even have homes and mortgages, and they think, oh, I have a home, a will. All those will we are putting together, they will still be subject to probate. My lawyer is here. And they're going to get a lot of it before they put the remaining change in the hand of your sons and children. So, but when you put them in trust, you don't own anything. It belongs to the trust. Your life insurance, your mortgages, everything belongs to the trust. So it doesn't go through the probate. And I'm sure our legal experts can advise further on that so that you know where to put your things. That is even another level, not to talk of when your name doesn't even show up at all. That is too dangerous for you. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I was going to say that for the young people that are single, online and in the room, it's a very uncomfortable conversation to have about all this joint ownership of assets, but it's very important. And I think for pastors or marriage counselors or people doing marriage courses, it's very important that they are included in the curriculum. In fact, as a matter of fact, I think those things should be raised before any marriage, because it's not easy. I know somebody that started a conversation, and that conversation actually ended the marriage.
Which is okay.
Exactly. So
It's
it
okay.
was the guy tried to manipulate to say, "Oh, you want this?" It's just like somebody saying, "Oh, I want a prenup," and it'd be like, "So you are thinking about leaving me?" No, I'm not thinking about leaving you. I'm just trying to, set boundaries, rule,
Yes.
ground rules. So for young people, try to start this conversation. It is very important.
It's very important.
As uncomfortable as it may seem, this is finance is one of the things that even breaks marriage.
Yes,
Yeah,
some money is a
if you will.
defense.
Yeah.
Is a defense.
so.
And you need wisdom to combine with it to succeed in the
Yeah, the
marital
Bible
life.
says that wisdom is the principal thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, one more. Okay.
Okay. I want to say a very big thank you to you, sir, for
Thank
this
you, ma'am.
wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, I've learned quite a lot from other contributors. I know one of our contributors had said something about people having knowledge about the bold steps and making sure that they take the bold steps. But the very important truth about the matter is that in some homes and even in society, people don't know what those bold steps are. They are not taught in schools, and people don't attend programs where they are taught those bold steps. So there has to be that avenue where those bold steps are taught to young people so that they can begin to think about these things before they get into those stages of marriage and even courtship and all of that. Then I know one of our contributors has mentioned something along the lines of marriage courses and curriculums. I just wanted to add something to that, because some of the marriage courses that we have around are like crash programs, and couples are not given the opportunity or are not even encouraged to share about their individual situations. So you don't even have that conversation in that place, that safe space where a counselor can actually give the right advice. So I think it's something that has to be looked into as well by marriage counselors and churches and different organizations that provide marriage counseling. So my question actually goes this way. So in a situation where, for example, a woman has a bank account, but the husband has already conditioned her mind via manipulation to say, any money in your bank account does not belong to you. It belongs to us. However, you can't send any money to your parents, you can't send any money to anybody, I can check your account at any time. So that woman is living in fear of, oh, my husband might just come tomorrow and say, oh, print out your bank statement, or he might look through the post and he'll see my bank statement and he'll check it to see how much I've been spending. So, what should that woman do? Are there support systems available for such women? And in the workplaces, for example, can women opt for situations where they have a certain percentage of their salaries being diverted to other accounts besides their salary accounts? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I think the best way, the basic way to go about it is, if a person is going through that situation, we need to speak out. And when you want to speak out, it's not just speaking out for the sake of speaking out. You want to speak to the right people. And that is why, because not every friend you think you have that really cares about what is happening to you. If you think you have a friend, that friend has a friend. That friend has a friend. So you're actually talking about yourself to about 5 other people. But you want to go to, that's why people have suggested talking to professionals or to the non-profits. They don't know you from anywhere. They just want to hear your story. They want to offer advices. Because those friends and family members you think you have actually just don't have anything to offer you. In fact, your situation is a little better than theirs. So they just pick your stories and throw it out there. So it's good to talk to those support services that we have. For in this environment, I suggest reach out to Time to Heal. I'm not going to mention places that are thousands of miles away, but I'm sure that in those places, and I know there are other local groups here, support groups around here, like Mama Bita mentioned about one of our institutions, and I know those people are around. And that is why this is education for all of us. You know, it is good that we think the woman is in that situation, but I tell you, men find themselves in that situation too. In fact, one of the slogans I hear back there is that the woman tells the man, your money belongs to us, my money belongs to me. That's how the woman says it. Your money belongs to us, but my money belongs to me. Men, we often hear that too. And so in that situation, the man is out there just trying to take care of their families. And you know, if you know, it's a little bit lopsided. The man, I'm talking about the man with a good head. I'm talking about a man with a good head. He cares for his family. His family is very important to him. If you ask a man, he wakes up every morning, the first thing he thinks is, how is my family going to survive today? That's a man with a good head. It's not just someone that's thinking of what he will get out of the whole thing. Sorry? So the man with the bad head, if you are dealing with the one with a bad head, then you don't want to hang around that for too long. So there's an abuse going on. I say it when a man talks in a particular way that he thinks you don't deserve some level of financial independence, is a passive abuse. An abuse is going on. You may not know it, but he knows it. And you need to seek for help. And it's okay, like the last person asked, at your job, you can tell them and say 80% to this account, 20% to here, 5% to here. Instruction you give them at your job, your direct deposit, they will follow. But it's very important that you have something in your name. It's very important. Forget about all this, I love you, I love you. It's very important to have it. It's very, because that is how you're protected in case anything happens. Nobody plans to get married to get divorced. Nobody, on the wedding day, everybody's like, this is forever. But 2 years down the line, 6 weeks down the line, 2 weeks down the line, we've seen it before days. It's all over. All those loving, everything just fade off. Like, what? Is it true? And many times the things that you think you go weather together, you just find out that it's not what it is. Anything can happen. Anything can happen on both sides. So it's important that you just have some level of financial independence, some level of wisdom. That's why the Bible says wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. The excellency of wisdom is that it gives life to those that have it. That's where I started. I end with that.
Sorry, just the very last question.
Yes, sir.
Where does the tithes fall under when you talk about the 70-30? Is it 70,
The
20,
70,
10,
30,
and then the
10?
51? Yeah. Where does tithe fall into?
Okay.
Tithe and offerings.
On the faith levels, we say if it's 100%, the 10% of it go into the tithe, because that is what the scripture says. The 10th. There are different schools who argue it and say that's Old Testament, this is New Testament, you don't have to give tithe. I hear all that on social media. But the only problem I have with that as a personal opinion, is that why is it that people say that paying tithe is Old Testament, but they claim the blessings of the Old Testament? Why would they pray with Old Testament prayers, but when it comes to instruction from the Old Testament, they say that is not for this New Testament? That is hypocrisy. So I think the 10% of the gross, whatever we have, is God says, bring it to me. Don't bother yourself how you spend. Just do what you need to do. And I've not seen anybody that paid tithe that is very tight for them. I've never seen that. It might not be as, but things God has, you can't serve God. Is a rewarder of those that seek him. You can't serve God and and you shortchange yourself. So the 10% of everything goes to God, the remaining 90%, 70, 20, 10. That's how I would recommend. No, I'm saying that after, let's say you make 10,000 in a month, 10% of that, right, we say is 1,000. Okay, so it remains 9,000. So 70% of 9,000, 30% of 9,000, 10% of 9,000. You know, it's not about 70, it's 70% of what it is, 30% of what it is, yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. That's a comprehensive financial resilience inaugural lecture. That was loaded. That was loaded. I felt like we should continue because there were practical issues and practical answers. But yeah, breathe. We've had a lot. We've taken very, very, very important information today. And everyone who has been joining online, apologies if you haven't had the time to ask your questions. Please be assured that if you posted any comments or questions, we will look into them and answers will be provided appropriately. So thank you so much, sir. That's Deacon Francis, who just delivered Building Financial Resilience. Let's put our hands again, all the way from the United States. Thank you so much. All right, I think you will agree with me, we've had loads of information already given into our system. We're going to take 5 minutes break, just a few minutes break for us to have coffee, tea, drink, nibble on the things on the table, take a breather for some minutes before we come to the next segment. But it's been absolutely brilliant so far. So thank you everyone who has contributed, who has asked questions, and who has been part of the conference so far. So we'll be having some music interlude while we take 5 minutes break, and the next one will be also very, very wonderful. Don't forget, AI is coming. The new frontier on how to address violence in our modern time is coming very soon. So sit back and enjoy. Thank you. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Lovely pictures. Yeah, I think we're back from the 5 minutes break. That was a much needed break. I hope you had a coffee, had a tea, something, water, just gone to use the restroom, because we're going to go to the next part. Apologies, we are a bit behind schedule. By now, we should have started the second part of the program. Due to some technical difficulties, we are a bit behind. So for the next couple of presentations, I will implore our speakers to be time conscious. We'll be very, very, very time conscious for the next couple of presentations so that we can go into the 10th year celebration. So thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we are welcome back to the next segment of this program. And to kickstart us into the next part, we will be inviting Modupe Ejason to talk to us briefly about what she does and many other aspects. Let me give you a brief overview of her profile. She has over 20 years of dedicated experience in social work in the United Kingdom. She is a highly qualified professional known for her leadership and commitment to making a positive impact in the community. Throughout her career, she has excelled, in various roles, including team manager, service manager, and head of service. I thought you were going to clap. That was a lot of profile. Thank you. And head of service, where she has consistently demonstrated a passion for helping others. In addition to her professional achievement, Modupe is an active member of the New Covenant Church, UK. Her faith drives her to inspire and uplift those around her, and as she believes in the power of encouragement and support. And you can hear from her where she was talking and advising during the presentations. So Modupe is not only a skilled social worker, but also a devout Christian, devout advocate for personal growth and empowerment in the lives of others. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Modupe as she comes to talk to us. Clap your hands as she comes. Thank you so much. She's dressed in a very beautiful African way. So today is Owambe and celebration. Over to you, Ma.
Thank you. God bless you all to the glory of God. And I don't even know that I'm supposed to be standing here after all the good people, fabulous what we've had today. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mas. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. Sister Biola, thank you for putting this together. And I bring the love from London. Yes. London, I went to the town center yesterday and 2 days ago, and I was thinking, this is not London, it's so different, but I'm having a quiet time. So thank you for having me. I just want to say Opife as well. My first degree is in education. I don't like hearing myself. Thank you. And I graduated from Obafemi Awolowo University in 1990. So Opife. Thank you. I came to the UK in 1991. After that, I went to study nursing and social work. We'll be talking about things that pertain to social services to women today. I'm sorry that some of you were late. We've been having a fabulous time. And I just want to move on because we've spoken a lot about domestic violence, blah, blah, blah. Because of my career and because of the JAPAs, any of the JAPAs here? Am I saying it right? Any of the JAPAs here? JAPAs. We call it JAPAs in London. What do we call it in Aberdeen? Oh, it's the same, JAPA. Okay. Sometimes my sister says, you don't know how to say. Because of that, I started thinking about my next step. And I don't know whether you're going to show it. I recently opened a company called Be Adec, named after my mom. My mom is still alive. Because I've been having numerous conversations with people that have just moved into the UK, some with young children, and they now get involved with social services. Earlier when we spoke about domestic violence, is one of the fears, isn't it, that people here, social services, they're going to remove your children. If we remove all the children in the UK, there will be no rooms for them. We don't do that. We support people as well as protect children. So don't be afraid of social services. If you've been abused, you need to come out and speak to people, you know, faith people, pastors, imams, whoever that you can confide in to support you. Please don't keep quiet. So what I'm doing at the moment is to support parents that are involved with social services. I believe it's unfair to come to the UK for better life. If I can just speak to one or two people. Why did you come to the UK quickly? Why did you move from Nigeria to here? I believe the majority of us are Nigerians. Why did you move to the UK or to Aberdeen or wherever we're watching from? Why? Studies. Good. Yes. Better life. Majority of us is about better life. Even if you came to study, it's still about, you can study. How many universities in Nigeria? I can't even, they are countless. So, yes. So when I was in Nigeria, when I went to uni, we had the traditional universities. But now I think there are private universities, all sorts. So majority of us actually moved away from Nigeria for better life. And I believe it's unfair for you to move into the UK or to move to Canada and America, and your children are being taken away from you because of lack of knowledge. I'm going to speak quickly about neglect. I think that's where majority of us, apart from the physical abuse, you know, people saying, my father slapped me, didn't do me anything. But if you did that here and there's a mark on your child, and the police and social services are involved, you can be having some criminal records that you don't have. And some of us, majority of the jobs that we do, we have to have our CBR checks. So you need to think about that, reflect about your actions and the way you discipline your child. But I just want to talk about neglect quickly. Neglect, all sorts of neglect, but I'm going to speak about when you leave your child home alone and the impact of that. You need to think about the ages of the children and their ability and capacity. There was one that happened, I'm going to use as an example. 3 young children, the eldest is 9. So we have 9, 6, and 4. So both parents work as we do. Dad works nights and mom works during the day. So unfortunately, when dad was supposed to be at home to take over the childcare, to take the children to school before mom goes to work, there was a delay at work. And he told mom, I'm going to be there soon. So he left. She left, sorry. Before dad gets home, one of the children wanted to have hot chocolate drink. And they put on the kettle. And the baby, the youngest 4-year-old, probably was eager to have the chocolate drink and pour the hot water on themselves. And the neighbor could cry. Can you imagine the cry, the wailing that would have happened to that child? So the neighbor was expecting to hear adults' conversation to say probably they've called the ambulance or something. Nothing happened. So the neighbor had to call the police. By the time they got there, it was like 55% burnt. And the children were removed. Of course, they will be put under police protection. I'm just using that as an example about we come for better life. Forget about those people that are calling you to give them money. You need to think about why you are here for your children. Majority of us are here for better life for those children. Those people that are calling you to send them money, forget about them. They don't matter. You need to look after your child. You need to think about who is supervising them. Even that 9-year-old, if there was not an incident or accident, probably later he will resend those children, his younger siblings. Because every time we're using the eldest to look after the younger ones without allowing them to have a break. And before I leave, I'm going to say something else about neglect. Physical neglect. Some of us, we don't have time to do our children's hair. The teachers, they watch. Until something happens, they will be thinking, he comes to school unkept. You know, sometimes the children, you get, go and bath yourself. We're rushing. You were always shouting at them. That's so unfair on them. Because when you made the decision to move to the UK, you never asked them. They just follow you. So I'm going to keep quiet there. But like I said earlier, I've just opened a company, an organization, to support us when we are involved with social services. We need to learn how to talk. We need to be humble. We need to listen. It's not the time that my grandfather did this and it didn't affect me. When you keep on talking like that, the government, they're very powerful. Can you imagine? It doesn't stop with that child. You may be thinking, if the children are removed, it doesn't stop with them. When those children are having children, we'll be there again to assess whether they are capable of looking after their children. Imagine you've changed the generation because we think that we've done one thing to one person, but it goes on and on, generation upon generation. I'm not saying that if your child is removed, that you can't have them back. You can. But just think about, why did I move to the UK? Did I move to the UK for my child to be removed from me? Did I move to the UK for my marriage to be having problems? Our brother and my sister, they've spoken so much about domestic violence. I don't want to go in there. But we need to take personal responsibility. You can't be saying because he does it to me every time. Oh, he does it. Then people will be asking, are you okay? Are you okay? I'll be asking you, are you okay? Are you okay? So you need to think about the impacts of your behavior, the impacts of the actions you're taking, the impacts of how you do things. Some of us, we send money to Nigeria, we send money to everywhere else except spend the money on ourselves. And some children will go to school with holes in their socks. That's unfair. Or their shoes are too small or too tight. Or we bought a child is size 6 and you bought a size 7 because you want them to use it for the next 1 year. So, bad parenting. I'm going to stop there. God bless you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. In fact, every speaker that has spoken today have delivered value, and I can attest to that. Value indeed. May we not neglect our responsibilities in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much for that. And knowing how to respond, how to talk, how to address these issues, because we live in a rules-based environment. So whatever you say, whatever you do, these things are picked, even when you say them unconsciously. So thank you for that. And for those who want to learn more about how to address social issues, you can get in touch with her or reach our mommy, Reverend Crown, and you'll be linked up. Now, you can notice behind the scene that quite a lot of actions have been going on. The technical team have been beefing up arrangement and putting things in place to ensure that we are ready for the next segment, which is an interesting one, a very, very interesting one. The topic we'll be addressing or listening to is one that touches the time where we are now, is AI, which stands for Artificial Intelligence, a new frontier in addressing violence. I am personally keen to know how AI can support in addressing domestic violence. And the person who is going to deliver that section is no other person than Emmanuel Kran. He is a digital AI expert in international development, advising governments worldwide on adopting emerging technologies, including AI, to enhance public services for their citizens. As an educator and content creator, yes, he is. I should mention that he's a content creator. Check his YouTube channel. You can learn a lot on how to use technologies. As educator and content creator, he has reached over 10 million students globally. 10 million students globally through his YouTube channel. Let's clap our hands. That's a lot. That's more than the population of some countries. 10 million students globally through his YouTube channel and online courses, sharing practical AI knowledge and insight. And may I add, our mommy calls them the technical team, the experts, because they are the ones that make everything happen behind the scenes. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Bro Emmanuel Crown as he delivers AI, new frontier in addressing violence. Over to you, sir.
Okay, just give me 1 minute here while I get this coming up. Looks like I need an AI to help with the screen. I just get. Is that? Just give me a second here. And come on, second. How could I use mouse?
Whilst they are trying to get that ready, like I mentioned, everyone who is watching online and everyone who is here, if you have questions on any of the topics that we've covered today, you can put them down, either in writing or those who are watching online, you can put them on the chat. We will endeavor to respond to them. All of them are very important. They also inform policy guidelines for the organization and advocacy, what we should bring up with relevant government authorities and the council. So please don't feel that the questions are not relevant, even if they have not been attended to. They are very important. Every questions, every comment, this recording, where I should have mentioned that before, that this is recorded and is on YouTube channel. So if you have any privacy issues or concern, if you don't want your presentation to be shared, absolutely feel free, and your privacy is guaranteed. Nothing will be shared. And but yes, when we go back to the videos, we'll be able to pick out points and action points that we'll address as an organization. So please keep the comments coming, the questions coming, suggestions and ideas coming. We need everyone to make things happen. So 1 minute as that goes on. So yes, again, ICOVAW is an annual conference. Today is very special. After this, what looks like an academic session, we'll go back, we'll go into the session of celebration, enjoyment, recognizing the many years of impact that God has helped the organization deliver in Aberdeen. And we are hoping to stretch beyond Scotland, go to other parts of the world, Africa, in Asia, North America, and South America. That's the goal. And please, all the advice that we've received today, the one on building financial resilience, I don't know whether our daddy will give us permission to have the slides or some of those points when the time comes. And then the ones on the legislative regulations, what the laws say, we can share those slides with you. The ones on building different aspects of our homes, not neglecting what we're doing, the youths and everything. So yes, I will press a pause here and invite the technical guys as we go into the AI session.
All right.
Over to you.
Do I have? Okay.
Yes.
I think. Oh, can you hear me okay? I think you can hear me okay. All right. All right, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I know it's been a very long day, packed session with lots of insights and very valuable information. I'm sure we've all found it impactful. So because of our time, this was supposed to be about a 40-minute presentation. I'll try to cram this down to 20 minutes. I'm sorry if I skipped through some things, but I'm happy to have a chat with you behind afterwards if you have some questions. So today we'll be looking at AI. I'm sure you've been hearing AI all over the internet, the news. We're going to see how can AI impact this issue of addressing violence in general. Not just domestic violence, but just violence in general. We'll touch on domestic violence, but violence goes beyond just domestic violence. There's violence that has to do with kids, violence that has to do with you as a person. So we'll touch that and see the role that AI is playing in that. So AI, just in case you do not know what that stands for, AI stands for artificial intelligence. And we like to define artificial intelligence as the ability for computers to mimic human behavior. Now, AI is not new. In fact, AI goes back all the way to 1955. And that's the man right there. He's called John McCarthy. He's the one who coined the word AI. So, and AI today is prevalent in a lot of our everyday devices. You use AI in your phones. Some of our cars has AI today. There's smart cookers in our houses that use AI. And we've been using AI for many things, in our lives. So if AI is not that new, if it's been around for over 70 years, why all of a sudden the hype, the push, everybody's talking about AI? If this thing is not new, if it's very developed, what changed? So something critical happened about 2 years ago, about 18 months, 19 months now, which was, if you go to the news, you start hearing ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, and all of that. With the introduction of ChatGPT, we got into a new era of a different kind of AI that has changed the way, the paradigm of the internet, computing as we know it. And this is called generative AI. So generative AI is what we define as the ability for computers to mimic not just human behavior, but the creative ability of human behavior. And these generative AI models are doing this so much better than a lot of humans. The new benchmarks now, 85% of the benchmark they tested it on, it was doing better than PhD students who has gone to school for many years. A lot of these AI models are outperforming those. So they're creating things like text, music, videos, and different types of content. So you can almost start to see where I'm going with this. If we now have AI that is this powerful to mimic the human creative ability, and it's now accessible to many, you can start imagining some of the implications this has when it has to come with violence. Instead of me talking about it, I want to show you. And right before this, I talked to someone here in the audience who was very gracious to be my participant. So I'll call her. So for me, please come up. I'm going to demo something to you. I want to just show you how powerful this technology is. It's better than explaining it, and then we'll talk about the implications. Please come up on stage. Thank you. Let's clap for her. She was brave. She volunteered. I asked her, and she agreed. So I'm just going to demonstrate something to show you the creative ability of the AI technology that we have today. So, all right. Okay. So I said, I don't know, this mic. Can you still hear me on this? Is this on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, so I talked about this new AI can generate images, audio, texts, videos. Let me show you that in practice. I'm going to take one snapshot. So if you could just come right here for the camera. Just so that everybody is aware, you did agree that I should just do this for demonstration purpose, right? Okay, so I just, we have a lawyer in the house, so I have to be careful, right? All right, just give me a big smile. Okay, give it a second. Okay, so just that one picture. That's all. I've captured her facial profile. I'm going to blow your mind in a second. But before I do that, I also want to capture your voice sample, and I need just about 30 seconds of that. So I'm going to ask you a question. Tell us your name, what you do, and why you're here. I'll be quiet. I'll record for about 30 seconds, and that's all. So when you're ready, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. You ready? All right. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Oluwatofumi Adeniga. I am a student at the University of Aberdeen, and I study economics and mathematics. And I'm very happy to be here at this conference today, as I think the work that the charity Time to Heal is doing is very important.
Right. So all I was just doing was capturing a voice sample, and maybe so that you can hear, you could probably hold the mic. Okay, so I now have one picture that has her facial profile, and I've captured just about 15 seconds of her voice sample. What can we do with this? So I'm going to go next. And I have here a text prompt that has given me the creative ability to do whatever I want. Just type whatever I want. So Tofumi, I'll ask you, what is your favorite city? Where would you like to go?
France.
France? All right. So Paris in France is good. Okay, a lady in Paris. Okay. What's your favorite color?
Pink.
Pink. So I'll say wearing a pink hat. Okay? Just that. Let's generate an image of Tofumi in Paris wearing a pink hat. Look at that. One picture. Just one picture. You can see. Does that kind of look like you? Convincing enough, right? Yeah? Okay? Oh, the glasses are not there. But if I added wearing glasses, it would probably pick it up and put that up. But you can see how convincing this is just with one image of her, which I could have probably just gotten on Facebook without her permission and do that. But let's move on. It gets even more better. We talked about AI being able to generate text, right? So let me make it generate some story of Tofumi liking to be in Paris, right? So write a story about how my user, it knows what my user is, I've given it some prompt before that, loves being in Paris. Okay, I'm going to generate that. Okay, so it says I love Paris because it's a place that feels like pure magic. Does Paris feel like magic to you? And out? Okay, she agrees with the AI. She agrees with the AI. Okay, so it's done that. It's written the story, text generated out of nowhere. But I actually wanted to speak it in your voice. Remember, I captured your voice profile, right? So let's hear it speak that. I love Paris because it's a place. Hopefully my audio is working.
I love Paris because it's a place that feels like pure magic to me. The art, the architecture, the little cafes.
I'll pause that. Do you speak French by any chance? No? How about we make you speak French then? All right, so I'll change it to French. All right, so that's her voice, speaking French, and I can make her speak whatever language. But there's more. One more thing. Let's go further. I'm going to make it generate her still saying the same thing, but now with a video, with motions, and all of that. All right? The same thing, I love Paris and all of that. So let's play that in here.
I love Paris because it seems to me to be pure magic with its art, its architecture, and the little cafes where I can spend hours watching people. There is a unique charm at every street corner, from street artists to the beautiful lights at night.
Just to be clear, she did not record a video saying those words. I just made the AI do that by capturing a small sample of her voice profile. Let's give her a hand of applause. Thank you. So you can almost imagine where I'm going with this when we start talking about violence. Over the last 18 months, ChatGPT has reduced the cost of running the platform, of using it, by about 1,500%. Now, that might seem like a vague number to you. Like, what does that mean? Let me put that for you in context. Here's a Lamborghini. If you got a used one, you could probably get this car for about $1 million. What if I told you that in about 18 months from now, you can buy this same car, the 2025 model, much better, more horsepower, but for only $6,000? That is the magnitude at which they've reduced the cost of this. So AI is getting cheaper, it's getting faster, and it's getting much better. So it's now accessible to the hands of everybody, and it's getting much even easier to use that anybody, any layman, it didn't take me that long to create everything that you just saw here today, and it was quite relatively inexpensive for me to do. So you can start to imagine this in the wrong hands, what someone can do with this. And we'll talk about very briefly, I'll scroll through it real quick, some of the negative things from this, but also the positive things that we are seeing AI using to counter the issue of violence. So in the area of risks, we all know this. I think a lot of us here work in the space of domestic violence. And a very common thing that perpetrators try to do when a victim tries to leave them is a lot of harassment, a lot of intimidation, stalking them. Prior to AI, a lot of this is done by maybe going to find where they work or going to do all of that physically, right? Or going with a video. But now, in the age of AI, most especially generative AI, with technologies like what I just showed you now, we're seeing a lot of abuse happening in the realms of deepfake. What I just did right now, creating an image of her, it's called a deepfake. And a study just showed recently that 98% of the use of this technology, I use it for a fun demo, but 98% of it is normally used to generate pornographic content of people without their consent. And most of that, 99% of that is women and young girls that they do this for. So you can imagine a partner, just with a picture they have on their phone, using a technology like this to go and generate content, post it on social media, cause emotional harm, emotional damage to the spouse or to the victim, to the perpetrator. In fact, a very disturbing research that I just read while I was preparing for this, they did a research recently and found out that 1 in 10 kids admitted that their friends had used an AI tool to generate nude pictures of other kids in the school. So there are apps, I'm not going to mention them because they're not worth mentioning here, but there are apps today that you could use, take a picture, and it will generate a nude version of that. And they're doing this with kids' pictures. So you can imagine what perpetrators can do with this, even for adults or victims. So you can imagine a lot of emotional manipulations, emotional abuse that can happen based off of that. Number 2 thing that I want to talk about, I'm talking about 3 of them, and then we're going to move on real quick. There is ability to create fake videos that you could post, maybe send to her workplace or his workplace to say, look, he was caught doing this, which is compromising, it's violating the policies. And you can imagine if you get them maybe fired from the work, you financially destabilize them. We just talked about finances. A lot of this is much easier to do today than it used to be before, where you had to find all this evidence that you had to carve out. And I'll jump real quick. The number 3 thing where the danger of such technology comes is impersonation. And not from the point of the victim, but from the point of even victims who are going to go meet social workers. I could easily clone the voice and say, I'm XYZ from Time to Heal, get on a Zoom call and say, can we meet here? I know that you're trying to run away from your husband. Let's meet in this place. I've called the police, but at the end, it's actually your husband who's going to go meet you there, right? And that is already happening today, not from the point of domestic abuse, but last year there was a company where the chief financial officer of the company got an email to say, please jump on a Zoom call real quick. He jumped on the Zoom call. He was talking to the CEO. He could see him. He was speaking to him and everything. And he said there was an urgent need. Please move $25 million, and you need to move it out now. So the financial officer, okay, stop. He signed everything and moved it on. Only to later meet the real CEO and said, oh, you know, I moved that funds we talked about. It's like, what are you talking about? What funds? I didn't ask you to move any funds. It was a deep fake. Somebody impersonated the CEO, joined the Zoom meeting, and got him to do that. So that was a financial fraud, but you could see how this could be used also to go after domestic abuse victims. So let's move real quick. There are also things around digital surveillance. We have a lot of smart devices today, which are getting much more smarter, like our smart home security devices that we use that could easily be used to monitor perpetrators, even after you've maybe one of the spouse left home. They could use that and use this to generate ways to stalk them and even do location tracking. So I'm going to move real quick. The last one that I'll mention real quick where this technology could be used for danger is in the area of psychological control. So you could see how easy it was for me to generate text. There's a study that came out that one of the number 1 criminal use for ChatGPT was all these scammers who send email scams. It used to be before that you could catch it because the English was going to be bad. It was not well written. But nowadays they could use something like ChatGPT to write a very convincing email that even if you're very smart, you can't tell that this was a fraud. So you can imagine perpetrators using this, even if somebody wanted to bully the spouse or bully the victim, and maybe they didn't know the best way to do it, they could use technologies like this to craft messages to harass them. Now, the industry as a whole has put a lot of safeguards around this, but there are ways around it. So, for example, I asked ChatGPT just before this, last night, draft me some very mean message that I can send to someone to harass them. And ChatGPT gave the response, I'm sorry I cannot do that, but I could assist you to navigate a difficult thing. But then I asked the same question to an open source model. I won't mention it because I'm not trying to promote somebody going out there to go use it for bad. I asked it the same question, and it gave me some very, very mean, well-crafted message that I wouldn't even have thought of myself. I can imagine taking this and sending it to someone. I could really wound them emotionally. So you can imagine perpetrators having all these tools that you could use to further victimize, harass, and intimidate victims. So let's move on real quick. How do we mitigate some of these things? And I'm going to move real quick to it. I'll mention some initiatives that are going on. And like I said, I'm going to be happy to meet you behind and we can talk about it. The industry as a whole, we're doing a lot to try to mitigate this. These are just some initiatives. One that I want to point out is everything that you see here, especially sensitivity, they are online tools that you could use to detect if something was digitally manipulated. So somebody sent you a video to say, oh, we saw the service user doing this. You could easily dump that video on a tool like this. Using AI still, it's going to use AI to reverse engineer that and try to say, okay, no, this was fake. So this is tools that you could use as service workers, even as individuals, to try to sort of fact check and detect these things before we escalate issues. And something that I'm putting as a task for everybody here, not only the service workers, is most social media now, they formed an alliance called the Social Media Content Authenticity Initiative, where that if something has been digitally modified by AI, a lot of these tools track that. So be aware. Be aware. Like when you go on Instagram and see something like, oh, Mr. Lawson, look at Mr. Lawson did it. Most of these labels are there. So some of us also, we don't pay attention. We're just quick to share. And we are also helping empower these people. So we as ordinary users of social media tools and tools that use AI, let's be aware. There are ways that these are labeled, and let's be aware of it to not spread misinformation. And then moving real quick, this is for service users. So if you're here and you're, service workers, you deal in the domestic violence space. These are several tools that you could use to work with your victims to help with psychological control, emotional abuse. They're very well designed. A lot of them use AI to help you with that, counseling and things like that to help them through that. So I'm going to skip through that. Like I mentioned, AI is not all bad. AI is also being used for good. And I'll mention three things real quick, and then we're going to end it as that. One places where we're seeing AI, especially generative AI, being used right now is, as an organization, you offer services like counseling. But if you have only 2 counselors, you could only see 2 patients at a given time. We can now use chatbots and generative AI to move all of that knowledge base into the chatbot so you can do this at scale. So instead of meeting 2 users at a time, you could do even up to 100, 300, 500, and it will be very personalized. It can customize whatever advice it's giving them to the user. So we're seeing a lot of use cases on that. And I encourage every organization here, if you're not already doing that, these things are quite relatively easy to do. Look into that and start creating some kind of chatbot that you use to offer your service use. One other place we're seeing this being used is risk assessment and prediction. A lot of times, victims who especially end up dying in the hands of someone being battered, it's because the abuser has been a repeat. It didn't just start today, right? There's a pattern. So there are AI tools now that can help detect this pattern across vast amount of data, which like a law enforcement officer might not have been able to pick that oh, this person was 50 years, or whatever, no, not 50, maybe like 10 years ago, they were caught in a battering situation here. So it connects all the dots and said, hey, this call that you just got from now on, this is a high-risk situation because this person has this history of violence. So there are AI tools that law enforcement are using for that. And also the social networking tools, which are one of the biggest perpetrators of this violence, have also put in a lot of safeguards in place right now to analyze and automatically screen content to say, hey, this content that is being posted on social media looks like it's an harassment content. And they do that and use that to sort of like filter them and take them out. So AI also, in a way, it's helping to mitigate some of this. So I'm moving through this real fast, but I want to end this with saying that we're in an age where technology is moving at a pace, especially AI technology, at a pace that we've never seen it before. It can be used either for good, and it can also be used for bad. The decision for that is left to us to decide how we use it. In as much as the perpetrators are using this, we who are service workers here, let's raise awareness of these things to our survivors and the victims that we work with. And let's also leverage these tools to make it easier to also deliver the services that we offer to our different service users. And I'm going to leave you with a message to say thank you. I only speak English, a little bit of Yoruba, and maybe a little bit of Hausa there, But I'm going to tell you thank you in, in 4 languages that I don't speak, and let's do that using my AI avatar. And in English, I'll say thank you for listening. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. I felt we should just continue that section. That's a lot of things. Thank you so much, Bro Emmanuel. You can see why he has reached over 10 million students globally. Let's put our hands again for that wonderful presentation. It was practical, it was down to earth, and it exposed a lot of things. I can see someone has already raised their hand. I'm sure we have loads of questions. Okay, let me give
yeah, I can take some questions. I can take a few, just 1 or 2, and
one or two questions.
I'll be out at the back.
Because of time, and briefly as well, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the session. That's an interesting one to see. I'm in academia, and so there's been a lot of conversation around AI use. I think one thing that was so surprising was how quick, you were able to use this to generate, these deep fakes. What do you think in terms of the regulations? Do you think the regulations, these technologies are moving faster than the regulation? Or do you think that, they are almost at par? And what can we do as a society, to prevent this kind of technologies to be used in the wrong way?
Yeah, thank you for the question. That's actually kind of the space that I work in. So I think it's been very common for a lot of emerging technologies like this where regulators are always kind of behind. They're catching up. And that's the same case that we're seeing with AI. Some jurisdictions are doing a good job, like Europe. I believe we're in the Europe here. Europe has been way ahead than most other jurisdictions in passing a lot of strict regulations to govern how these technologies are being built. Because a bunch of the regulators came and said, look, this is powerful technology. And if we do not put constraints on how they're built, then we'll have a lot of people who are driven by money and put powerful tools irresponsibly out there. So Europe is doing a good job, but besides Europe, there's not that much other jurisdictions that are coming up with very concrete regulations as of yet to tightly control this. The US has been trying to do something. It's been very political. They've been going back and forth. The White House passed an executive order. It's not good enough, but there are initiatives, and it's actually gotten to the point that the industry themselves are coming together to say, look, regulators, regulate this because of some of the things they're seeing in the labs, in their research lab, like, let's regulate this. So there are efforts, but I don't think it's enough. And as to what you can do, I don't know how it works here in the UK. In the US, I would say, call your senators, call your congressmen, put pressure, tell them to back regulations that will pass, to mitigate the risk that comes with some of these technologies. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's correct. Thank you for that answer. You're spot on, and thank you for the question. In terms of UK legislation, I can tell you that there is already a master plan. The UK government has developed an AI master plan, and some legislations are being put in place. But it's difficult, like you said. Is moving at a pace that is so you need to be technically inclined to be able to proactively legislate. Last week as well, one of the government departments had a data week, and AI was top on the discussion. So there are some steps being taken in the UK in that regard. Thank you so much for that powerful session. I think we can spend the whole day talking about this, but like he said, he's going to be available at the conference. Talk to him if you have any questions, personalized response. And I hope you'll have the privilege again in the future that we'll have a full day presentation on this when the time comes. But once again, thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for Bro Emmanuel for that wonderful presentation. And thank you everyone who participated. That draws to a close the formal session of presentation and everything. I think with the permission of our mommy, we go to the next segment of the event of the day, which is the 10th year anniversary celebration. But before we go into that, we'll just take 5 minutes break to just play some interlude music behind the scene. Let me confer with our mommy to get the direction on the next step. I think she's already on her way. Let's make welcome. Put your hands together for our mommy, Reverend Crown, as she's coming. Thank you so much, ma.
Thank you so much, my boss. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And we apologize for the little differences that we have in the arrangements. I promise you we're not going to take any more longer time. Just give us about 5 minutes, and what we are just coming back to do is just to give thanks, and it will not take so long as we have planned. We just have the meals, and then we give thanks. If I tell you my testimony, you will know